Ladies and gentlemen, it's a Monday evening. And you know what that means. It's the beginning of another week. But more importantly, what it means is welcome back to the Blackout Racing League. It's week number 5. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not far away from getting started. I apologise for the slightly staggered start in this. It means I missed J-Lane saying good evening to the greatest commentator any league could ask for. That is extremely high praise, and thank you for your kind words, mate, honestly, but I've still got a lot of learning to do. Magico says no true. Stop it, guys. You're making me blush. Stop it. Anyway, before I blush anymore like the colour of that Ferrari on my start screen, let's look at the calendar. It's the 21st of October. It means we're going to Mexico for a sprint. However, sprint means slightly different things in this league, because Codemasters cannot code. Oh, the hilarity and irony. So it means a reverse 50% race. Reverse grid 50% race. It is absolutely immaculate proceedings that are going to transpire here today. Which is why I was confused at Spa when they decided to carry on racing. And that hurt my little cortex. Caused catastrophe and calamity. But it's all been cleared up now, so that's okay. But we got the Netherlands. Second of all, the main thing, of course, is that reverse grid start to the day is going to be something very interesting. And while Jaylan and Magico have been using the lure pack for this first stanza of the stream, I will also say they do some very awesome things themselves. Jaylan, his YouTube channel, which is exactly the same as his Twitch handle, which I've already said. But the point is, he has videos of previous Blackout seasons done to an extremely high production standard. So please go and check them out, because they are very, very cool indeed. And Mr. Magico, well, he's my darling husband, so if you're not following him already, well, you're not welcome here. I'm joking, obviously, or am I? But the point is, he's done all of these graphics. He's done the starting screen, the standby screen, the ending screen, ha. Pathyman's broken the sound barrier with his comment. He's gone, good evening, Mr. Karl. Good evening to you too, Mr. Pathyman. Hope you're doing well, sir. Wishing you all the best of luck for all of the proceedings tonight. It's going to be a tremendous tale of all things possibly fortunate and possibly fateful. But we're going to have fun nonetheless. It's quite a small running order for tonight. Pathyman says, thanks, but it won't be needed. Fair enough. Pathyman, a man brimming with confidence in the French connection. The Frenchman in the French car. Which is, well, seeing Renault pull out of the sport, so that's quite sad, but oh well, you know, you can't have everything. We are about to get underway with the first race of the evening. Straight in, no holds barred, no beating around the bush, which sounds like a club night. We are going to the marvellous Mexican Grand Prix, which, of course, is next in the real-life calendar. We had the Texas Grand Prix, the US Grand Prix, not too long ago. That's me replaying my stream back to myself. That confused my little head. But fasten your seatbelts. Buckle up, everyone. It's going to be a bonkers ride as we head for a 50% reverse grid race around Mexico. Thanasi is here this week. Also got Tirik, Timalele, Terziak. All of the T's are here. Quite a few drivers that couldn't make it this evening. But one driver that is back is Big Swimmer. He returns, having moved abode, for a more eloquent way of putting it. He has now managed to find an internet, and he is back with us for today, which means the Aston Martin team have the full complement of 2 cars running rampant, or at least that is the plan. Here we are then, in Mexico. A lot of people from Europe have got very lost on the left-hand side, but further down, we got some Brazilians, a lot of Finnish fans, or maybe a lot of finished fans here in Mexico. Who knows, really, although in Valtteri Bottas' case, it's just a bit sad, really, isn't it? You know what? At least they're loyal. I respect that. The Mexico City Grand Prix, then. The crucial thing here, before we get started, is, of course, the run down to Turn 1. And, well, also the question of whether the weather will play any games, which is for all of us to find out. But that run down to Turn 1 The supremacy of the slipstream. Who will dare to dream the most? And who will, in fact, be the daredevil? Fortune does favour the bold, they say. Perhaps that will ring true tonight. But we are waiting with many, many, many litres of anticipation. Ready for it to all get underway. It's 5 red lights in Mexico. Lights out and away we go. It's Maximus on pole position, followed by the chasing Pathiman. Let's see how much of a good start he's got. It's about even Stevens between the two of them as they make their way down towards turn number 1. Look at the gaggle of cars, but it's the Alpine of Pathiman going down the inside of the kick cell, but Maximus holds it round. A bit of a tight slapper for Pathiman, and he has to settle for P2. They all get through the first few corners nice and safely, and Pathiman could find himself under pressure briefly from Buck 20. Timalele making moves, Tyrrell making moves down the inside of Big Sam. He tries to go on those medium tyres. Big Sam on the hard tyres, and round the outside he slingshots off the Mercedes of Magico as well. That's a delightful move from Tyrrell. Thanasi also follows through. Milo tries to nibble at the heels of Milo, but can't make it work. Around the outside went Buck 20. That's a crucial move for him if he wants to get after Maximus up ahead. The lead of the race beckons for the McLaren man who had a strong showing last week. And so he will try and continue it into this little, well, they call it the stadium section, but what do you even play in this stadium? It's made of concrete. That's a very, very painful game, that is. But out of the final corner to end lap number 1 of 36. It's a slobber knocker here today. Maximus, your leader, but reeling him in the slipstream and on the soft tyres. Buck 20 in the McLaren has used every single ounce of electrical energy, and that will put pay to any effort he would have initially had at the beginning of this race. Meanwhile, Milo's on the move, side by side with Magico at turn number 1. Look, Tyrrell and Thanasi side by side, and there was contact. Thanasi's been half spun round. It sends him to the back of the grid. No damage on the Williams wagon, just emotional. Magico still fighting it out though, side by side with Big Sam. A big lock-up into the left-hander, and Sam sweeps around the outside in his Aston Martin machine and makes his way up into P10. A dreadful start to proceedings for Thanasi though. Was side by side with Tyrrell. Just a rear of the Alpine car catching the front right of the Williams car, and there's always going to be a spin around there. Stark putting Buck 57 under immense pressure into the stadium section. It's what the crowd have been clamouring for. My girlfriend just said, "Hi, Mr. Ribena Racing." That's... You know what? It is a juicy broadcast. We'll take it. Buck 20 will have DRS, crucially. After one lap, that DRS is enabled, regardless of the electrical energy he might have depleted. It's suddenly going to pay back. He's going to reap the rewards here. Tries round the outside. Definitely thinks about it, but nothing opens up. Maximus holds it round, using the marvellous momentum, but the magnitude of the overtake at stake is not over yet. Buck 20 towards the left-hander, goes down the inside, makes me break the sound barrier, but it's a superb send from Buck 20 into the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix behind Stark. Did get past Buck 57 with, I imagine, a delightful dose of DRS, as was the case for Terziak. Timalele has Buck 57 next up on his menu to gobble up, but the McLaren man is into the lead, crucially, and on those soft tyres. He's the only one on this grid on softs. Maximus absolutely launching it forwards with DRS. That's how powerful it is. J-Lane saying, "Go on, Max." I'll tell you what, if you scratch away at the surface, what might be a Max actually is Max Verstappen. Little do you all know, he's actually joined the Blackout Racing League and has a second bite of the cherry, which Max Verstappen likes very much. Also combined with a forceful set of affairs, but down the inside goes Maximus. It won't even be a contest into turn number 1. It's easily done. An academic move from the Kick Sauber, who... well, it's hardly kicking and screaming. Well, Milo is going into combat with Tyrrell around the outside at turn number 1. The McLaren, one on the softs, one on the hard tyres, and I'll tell you what, he's swept clean round the outside of Tyrrell into that first chicane section. That's delightful work from the McLaren, man. Another news, Tim Alele's not got past Buck 57. He's actually dropped a lot of time, which is, well, rather surprising for me. Tim Alele's normally on it like a car bonnet. However, his bonnet's flown off in this early stage. Pathiman now piling on the pressure on Buck 20. Is that all that the softs had to give? Well, surely not. Pathiman doing the smart thing, just conserving a bit of battery. Watching that McLaren kick out the rear end. The bucking Bronco up ahead of him. Although Buck 57 keeping it under control for the time being. We already have a time penalty. Big Sam on his return. He's got a Wi-Fi. And now he's got a penalty to boot. But Pathiman with DRS and a lot of ERS to play with. Easily gets past Buck 20 into P2. It's as it was for the front two. The Alpine can now go in hot pursuit of P1 up ahead. Meanwhile, Stark getting dangerously close to relieving Buck 20 of P3 ahead. On board with a prancing horse, the winner in real life at the Circuit of the Americas, looking for the ascendancy here in Mexico. And before the corner was even made, Stark makes it through into P3 as a massive tank slapper. Again put on by Pathiman. Stark seizes the opportunity. A delightful send from the Scarlet Ferrari, and the prancing horse gallops his way round the outside, albeit with a confetti cannon to boot. But Stark moves his way up into P2 in some style. Buck 20 into P3, another mistake for Pathiman as he goes into the runoff area, and he's, oh, Jesus Christ, he's getting swamped by absolutely everyone. Tim Alele's up to P4, Buck 57's up to P5. Pathiman remains in P6, but for how long? Terziak's on the outside of him and runs rings round the Alpine driver as Buck 20 is already into the pit lane. Why has my computer had a moment? Stop it. Thank you. Buck 20 already into the pits and deciding hard tyres are the way to go. 6 laps is all that the softs lasted for. And that says it all, really, doesn't it? Big Sam is into P8, actually getting past Milo around the outside, and contact made by Thanassi, who then collides with Magico as a result. It's very scrappy towards the back of the field. Thanassi has the bit between his teeth. He needs to make his way up, and why is my computer having problems? I'd love to know. Meanwhile, up at the front, Stark's up into P2. Tim Alele's now in P3 as a result of Buck 20 making his way into the pit lane. Possibly going for a 2-stop in that McLaren. That or an audacious 1-stop. Which would be rather spicy. In the Day of the Dead, the Dia de los Muertos. De los Muertos. It's a masculine adjective. I should remember this from GCSE Spanish. But who cares about my language studies? The point is, Buck 20's tyres definitely needed revitalising and resuscitating. So much so he got rid of them. They're now 6 feet under, and now he's resurrected himself with a new batch of hard compound tyres. Maximus, though, has half a second's worth of a margin between himself and Stark, and it's inevitable, really. You can feel it brewing, and Stark easily surges through into P1, a new race leader in the Mexican Grand Prix. Reverse grids can't stop the cream of the crop from rising to the top. As Thanassi, you could just see him in the foreground for a brief moment, but he's through past Milo and Big Sam into P8. He would have felt down at the beginning of this race, but I tell you what, he is certainly not out. Stark P1 then already making a second's worth of a margin to break that DRS threat. Superb pace from the Ferrari driver. Maximus in the kick. Sauber is now kicking and screaming because someone's taken his lead and he's not very happy about it. Through that sweeping complex, which is the most unrealistic set of corners in the F1 game in all of human history. But he does actually remain within a second. He's not going to go down without a fight, is Mr. Maximus. That's a horrendous camera angle. And Buck 57, well, I'll tell you what. I was laughing with Pathiman there to kind of say, oh no, I'm in danger, was what he's probably thinking. But managing to get through that completely unscathed was all of them. Tim Alele, Buck 57, Terziak, who now looks like, well, it looks like Buck 57's going for it. He certainly has gone for it, and he's absolutely minced the Mercedes behind. The Williams working wonders in a straight line, and indeed, round the rest of the track. Because it's Formula 1, and that's what it needs to do. But Buck 57 into the podium places. Good stuff. Thanassi's already caught up to the two Alpines up ahead. Pathiman perhaps providing a barricade for pure Tyrrell, although Tyrrell not exactly getting away. Right on board with the Williams driver then. Was nerfed to the back of the grid, and in his mind, the aggressor just 2 cars ahead. He's got the aggressor's teammate in between the two of them. The balmy barricade, that is the French connection of Pathiman in the Alpine. Meanwhile, Thanassi will keep the dream very much alive. DRS open, no battery being used. A slight jink to the inside from Pathiman there. Just to say, don't think about it, sunshine. It's definitely not worth your time. Although defending fresh air into the hairpin, Thanassi, well, he does send it at the best of times, but he wouldn't have sent it there, and he saved a good amount of battery. But so has Pathiman. Tyrrell deploying, Thanassi deploying, Pathiman deploying. We're going to ride on board with the Williams driver as Timalele will possibly pass Buck 57. In fact, there he goes on the left-hand side, as will Terziak. It's going to be a double overtake for Thanassi. The double dose of slipstream. The battery throttled into oblivion. But Thanassi says goodnight, Irene, to the 2 French cars behind. And up into P6 he goes. His teammate next up the road as Pathiman descends even more places. Milo's through. Big Sam going through. Down the inside for Aston Martin. Pathiman hangs it in there for as long as possible. But there wasn't enough hangage that could stop the biggest swimmer in town. Lap number 9 already of the Mexican Grand Prix, and I'll tell you what, it got spicy up the front for a brief moment. A double overtake. Well, Buck 57 will have felt doubly overtaken, which is sad for him. But Timalele and Terziak making their way forwards. And actually, credit to Maximus not losing a humongous amount of time to Stark up ahead. He's keeping him relatively honest at about 1.5 seconds, just edging out to about 2 seconds. But he has unleashed that Kick Sauber. Nice sponsor. And he's doing a great job. So well done, Mr. Maximus. Buck 57 deploying the DRS. Has got slipstream. Terziak's just lost touch with Timalele a tiny bit. And Pathiman's the man on the move. He's kept up with Big Sam. And through he goes. Again, gold star, A-star standard overtake from Pathiman. It's completely textbook. But the point is, he makes it stick beautifully. Right, I just need to resuscitate my throat quickly. So we're going to ride on board with... You know what? We're going to ride on board with Timalele. You're going to watch him for a whole lap. Hopefully I get back in time from resuscitating my throat to see the overtake happen. But hopefully no more drama than that. Enjoy the onboard, though, and turn up the noise. Simply savour the V6 symphony of sound. Well, there you go. Witnessed by your very eyes on the screen, Timalele makes his way into P2. More crucially for him, though, he's kept Terziak and Buck 57 behind Maximus. So he can now deploy as much of his pace as possible and just allow Maximus to be a bit of a barricade to try and hold back Terziak and Buck 57 at least a little bit. Someone who has got insane pace and is a man on a mission is Thanassi. He's almost back on the coattails of DRS. In fact, through this stadium section, he might well be within DRS. I believe that DRS detection zone happened just before that grandstand, essentially. It was just underneath the grandstand, in fact. Thanasi will not have DRS, but someone that will do is Maximus, who is ahead of Terziak, deploying everything he can. Buck 57's got a lot of battery to play with, and I'll tell you what, if you're listening, just deploy it. They ain't got battery in front of you, sir. They got nothing left. Timalele's managed to deploy his pace very, very well, actually, and now is within DRS range of the Ferrari up ahead. As I get a track mac up... No, track mac? Good grief. Anyway, Terziak and Maximus go into combat. Round the outside, dances Terziak. And with a swish and a flick, through he goes into the podium places. And now can set his sights on the top two ahead of him. Buck 57 immediately tries to respond and get immediately past Maximus, but nothing doing. It means Thanasi's now within DRS range of his teammate. And if Terziak gets within, yes, he does get within DRS. Timalele's made a mistake. He's made a catastrophic error. He's lost 0.4 of a second to Stark up ahead. Now needs the stadium section of his life, but immediately that right-hander is, well, it's sumptuous. In fact, he smashed the stadium section and is almost back within DRS. Doesn't get it, though, and it just gives Terziak a whiff of hope behind, which is crucial for him. Deploying all of the battery he can is Timalele. A Stark takes us on to lap number 13. Buck 57 is going to go through into P4 unless his Williams teammate has anything to say about it. The answer is Maximus did get DRS on the cars ahead, so no. He will hang back, has a golden front row seat to watching his teammate ascend up into P4, and with a good run through the chicane, Thanasi can stomp on the power, slap on the battery, and surely make his way through comfortably into P5. Maximus won't fight the issue too much. Buck 57 goes round, and all of that hard work is completely unravelled in the blink of an eye. That's how quickly the pendulum can shift in this sport. And Buck 57 descends down into P7. And what initially looked promising has turned very, very pear-shaped. But there's still a long way to go in this race. Stark, your race leader at the moment. Nice camera angle. That's exactly what I wanted to see. But the good news is he'll have to look behind him soon, so we can't be on this camera angle for long, because this man is on the move. As Thanasi gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. I mean, at the pace he's going at, he can have all the penalties in the world and possibly still win this race. He's got absolutely immense pace in that Williams car, but it looks like it's an inevitability. There will be a new leader in the Mexican Grand Prix, and through goes Timalele into top spot for the Mercedes outfit. And now he can try and use that clear air to his advantage and get up the road. But that's much easier said than done, especially with a lot of hungry customers behind. One of which, Terziak, down the inside. He dives through in his Aston Martin, but slides, gets it all crossed up. And look who's there, waiting to pounce. It's opportunism of the highest order. Thanasi through into P3. A 3-second time penalty won't dampen his spirits whatsoever. I sounded like a Rottweiler just then, but Thanasi's just running rampant. Into P3 he goes, and immediately looking like P2's on the cards towards the right-hander. Thinks better of it, is going to just stay behind for the time being. Keep it cool despite the cracking drive he's putting on. Nice sponsor. Meanwhile, behind, we've got the likes of Big Sam piling pressure on Pathiman, who goes wide again. Pathiman not enjoying proceedings so much here in Mexico. Almost losing touch with Milo ahead, but Tirik, his teammate, is pulling the trigger. Into the pit lane he goes. Thanasi with not such an ideal last corner. He's lost quite a lot of time to Stark up ahead, deploying everything he can. But Tirik, onto the hard tyres he goes. That's his one and only stop of this race. How did Thanasi find that space? I asked myself that question every day. Thanasi, he's just a space sorcerer. It's what he does. He conjures it up. The thinnest of gaps, he says, yeah, that'll do. That'll certainly do. And now, very much, has the Ferrari up ahead in crosshairs. Does Milo have damage? I do not know, actually. Doesn't look like it from the external shot, but externally is one thing. Well, Pathiman's got past him in all of that, using the DRS to his advantage. Just keeping an eye on that gap between Thanasi and Stark, which is closing in all the time. Piling on in almost insurmountable amount of pressure into the stadium section as we rapidly approach the fulcrum point of this Mexico Grand Prix masterclass from all of these drivers. By the way, Tyrrell emerged out of the pit lane in plumb last, but equally buck 20 has had those tyres for about 10 laps longer, so that will come back to the Alpine driver. I have almost no doubt. Thanasi opting not to use battery at this stage, just keeping touch with the front two, waiting to pounce at some point soon. Looks for the switch back into turn one. Stark felt like he had to defend. He felt that it was necessary to do so. But perhaps that necessary evil will provide the highest cost, as Thanasi will reap the rewards of a great exit into P2. Goes the Williams driver, and my word is he putting on a show. From last, he could almost certainly make his way into first. But he's got the hard-charging Timalele up ahead. There are usually fireworks when these two go into combat, and I assure you today will be no different. Look at that helicopter shot. Good grief. Amazing aesthetics here in Mexico. Although, I'm eyeing up Milo's progress, as J-Lane has rightly brought it up. Whether he did have damage, I doubt it. He is keeping up with Pathiman, absolutely fine. And externally, does not look like he is facing any kind of hindrance whatsoever. Around the final corner. Bit of a shimmy on the exit there as the tyres try and bite into the bitumen as much as possible. Hard tyres still well and truly in the game. The mediums will be feeling the pain. But Thanasi is not done there. From last, he ascends up into first place, right to the top of the pack. The cream of the crop rises certainly to the top. And Thanasi takes the lead from when he was once last, very early on in this race. He has climbed all the way up to first. And possibly the fairy tale is well and truly forged. But we're still not even halfway. We're very close to it, but not just yet. Milo has managed to get past Pathiman in all of that. The top three all within DRS range of each other. Terziak just losing touch just a tiny bit. Magico, by the way, into P9. And has kept up with Buck 20 quite well, might I add. He is always learning all the time. He has been brave enough to slap no assists as his own little learning curve. And meanwhile, Tyrrell's going into combat with Maximus. Both of them have pitted onto new tyres. Maximus 1 lap later than Tyrrell, and he has managed to defend for the time being. But the Alpine looking very racy on those tyres, which might have got up to temperature and acclimatised just a little bit more. Someone's had a problem. It's Buck 57 who's had a problem towards the pit lane. He's spun towards the inside. And again, it's pain stations for Buck 57. Jesus Christ, man. Thanasi's flying. Already almost 2 seconds ahead. Forget the penalty. The rest of the grid will do well to keep up with him at this stage as Terziak emerges from the pit lane. And who's this up the road? It's Timalele's teammate, Mr. Magico. Perhaps it's going to thwart Terziak's plans of a potential undercut. We shall watch this with great anticipation. Through the first chicane, the Aston Martin driver goes. Rather gingerly, I might say. I feel like there's more confidence in the car to be had. But still, perhaps just letting the tyres coax in. Don't overdo them early on. Bring them up to speed slowly. And perhaps there are sumptuous findings further down the road. But he does have Mr. Magico to contend with. The car sponsored by TikTok, dancing its way around the Mexico track. But the only difference is TikTok is cringe and Terziak certainly isn't. DRS open for the Aston Martin driver, but nothing will be doing there. And as much of an undercut as Terziak will have, remember, Thanasi and Timalele will have medium tyres towards the end of this race. Milo's broken out of DRS. Well, broken the DRS of Pathiman, who still has that slipstream to use, so he's just getting back within a second. But hard tyres are well and truly the play. Speaking of someone who's on the hard tyres and having a lovely time, it's Buck 20. Here is at the foreground of your picture as we watch Terziak get past Magico in the background for P8. A pretty crucial move in the context of his race if he is to get a lasting advantage over Timolele and have any chance of thwarting his plans of finishing ahead of the Flying Scotsman. Meanwhile, the Greek got up in first. Well, it's a heaven-sent drive so far. 2.4 seconds. Rapidly approaching 2.5 seconds. In fact, there it is. Tick the temps off as they go by. Thanasi is absolutely flying here in Mexico. As, oh no! Maximus has a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. Well, that's a penalty situation. He's now got 13 seconds worth of penalties. A big swimmer will, for pride's sake, overtake him on the track. But equally, he knows he could drive towards El Salvador and still finish ahead of him. Stark keeping keeping the man ahead of him very, very honest. That being Mr. Timolele, who I believe is potentially current championship leader. Don't quote me on that. But the point is, Timolele has work to do. There's another yellow flag. Oh no! Mr. Magico is sideways, dawdling at the pit exit. Luckily, nobody nearby, and he does now decide that, yes, it is time to get off the hard tyres, but it's disaster for my one and only. Into the pits he goes, though, and there is no damage on the front wing. Just a new set of medium tyres slapped onto the Mercedes man's wagon. And on he carries. Pathiman, by the way, still keeping up with Milo. He has had his few wobblies in this race, has Mr. Pathiman, as English decides to evade me, so that's fun. But having a nice little scrap are these two. Pathiman on those aging medium tyres, perhaps wanting to go onto the softs at the end of this race, which would be a rather ambitious play. By the way, Thanasi, ladies and gentlemen, you will have seen it on the left-hand side. He's already broken outside of 3 seconds of Timolele. And if the race finished like it was, as Pathiman gets past Milo in the stadium section, good grief, well, I imagine that might be Milo also playing, well, a tremendous tactical play, as he will get DRS and Pathiman won't. And it just allows him to hoist ahead of the Alpine and solidify his position. And also, I mean, he's not vulnerable on the next straight. It's very cunning from Mr. Milo, although Pathiman, well, potentially would have paid his compliments by diving down the inside, but that did not happen. Mr. Stark, though, has exited the pit lane. He is on a new set of hard tyres and has really not lost that much time to Mr. Terziak up ahead. He has got Tyrrell up ahead of him, and those tyres will be slightly cooler, so he just has to bring them into the window as much as he can, albeit he does have DRS and is wanting to waste no time. Down the inside goes the Ferrari driver. Tyrrell, my mistake, locks up into the left-hander, switched back from Stark as a result, and into the double right-hander. They're still going to be side by side as a marvellous piece of momentum is picked up from the Alpine driver. No avenue has presented itself for Stark, and it just means Terziak can escape up the road a little bit more. But Stark looking scarily feisty, and now with another helping hand of DRS to the inside of the stadium section, but remains behind. He does remain behind, and that'll be crucial for him because he does not want to waste any time fighting through there, losing more time than he should, especially because Timolele has pit. Timolele into the pit lane, and out of the pits he goes. The crucial question for him, does he remain ahead of Tyrrell and Stark? The answer is certainly no. Stark goes through into P6. Tyrrell is alongside Timolele, and it will be a slight side-by-side affair into turn number 1, as Tyrrell gets a 3-second time penalty, I believe, again for multiple warnings. That's 6 seconds worth of penalties. Not ideal. But the point is, Timbo hasn't lost that much time, and now on those fresh medium tyres, as my computer has a stroke. Meanwhile, Buck 20 is ahead of Terziak. That's quite quirky, isn't it? The McLaren man made a very, very early pit stop, but he is in P3. Terziak into P4. Buck 57. Has he pit yet? No, he has not. Buck 57 has not pit yet. In fact, there's only 3 people yet to pit. One of which is this man. It's Milo in P1 in the championship. My apologies. Timolele is trying to be in hot pursuit of his championship crown. Or reclaiming it. Reinstating it in his favour. to have consecutive championship crowns. Meanwhile, Thanasi is looking to get another championship crown. It's been a minute since he had one, or at least it feels like it is. Did the business quite a lot on F123. F124, the championship crown has evaded him so far. Hasn't been here full time, but gets out on the road in P3 ahead of his teammate who is yet to pit. And now we shall find out what stern stuff Thanasi is made of. First car up the road to try and usurp on his fresh medium tyres some very, very old tyres in the form of Buck 20. 17 laps older. Terziak took the lead of the race, by the way. I forgot to mention it. The Aston Martin ace through into P1. And the Flying Scotsman will hope the coal fire can rage on and ignite the charge for the potential victory here today. But he's going to have to watch out, because there is the Williams Wonder in P3 and deploying battery. Was thinking about not wasting any time at all, but Buck 20, you saw how powerful the DRS was for him as well. And so they just have to wait a little bit longer. Bide his time. And he probably will have, he has significantly more battery, in fact. There goes that particular psychological advantage Buck 20 might have had initially, because deploying all the battery to the very last as Timalele takes the fastest lap. Thanasi takes P2, and only one car now between himself and the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix. And surely it will be academic as through on Thanasi's teammate, Timalele goes, took the fastest lap, takes P4, through the chicane, Thanasi goes, and he doesn't have to be too feisty about this one. He can wait just a little bit as start goes through on Buck 57 into P5. Tyrrell just waiting in the background there. Has had his fair share of slight micro problems in this race, but has managed to keep it in P7. Magico said he's definitely reporting something. I apologise, I didn't see the incident, but whoever it was, yes, report them, husband. Don't let them get away with this. By the way, I sort of prophesied about it, and now the prophecy has indeed been fulfilled, because Pathaman is indeed on soft tyres. Considering Buck 20, well, discarded them after 6 laps, I can't see how this is going to go very well. But surely the leader looking to take back what is rightfully his. Buck 20 pits for a second time in this race, but with 11 laps to go, Thanasi moves back into the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix and will set his sights on sailing away into the distance. Terziak, well, will try and steer his ship further towards Thanasi rather than away, and has to be wary of Timalele's cruise ship behind him, such as the monolith Mercedes have made. But Thanasi, credit where credit is due, never gave up, gritted his teeth down, ate the horse, and now is galloping away with those fresh mediums. Terziak, though, using some good pace on the hards for the time being, but I'm sure the pace differential and indeed the tyre life differential will exacerbate themselves as we head into the technical twisty stadium section. Even a dose of DRS couldn't help Terziak through the right-hander and then the left. It was a good right-hander, actually, from the Aston Martin. And Thanasi hasn't really got a way out of DRS. Perhaps using Terziak a little bit. Just create a bit of a buffer, although through the last corner, almost escaping DRS range. Which is good news for Thanasi. However, bit of DRS, what was a 9/10 gap at the beginning of the straight, now is eroded to 5. Make that 4, pretty much 5/10 of a second, half a second's margin gained in a straight line. Perhaps tactical plays being done by Mr. Thanasi. Just keeping Terziak in DRS range and just using his pace so much so that actually Timalele will stay outside of 3 seconds, and when Thanasi feels like putting the hammer down, he can just put the hammer down. Because he knows he can. Although, it looks like it's about to happen. Looks like that DRS is about to be broken on this lap, albeit Terziak again will get DRS. So rear wing flappage is deployed. Meanwhile, the man that's actually on the move is the Ferrari faithful of Stark. The one and only horse galloping through. And perhaps galloping past the Silver Arrow car ahead of him. Terziak just remaining on the coattails of DRS. Everything else is stabilised for the time being. Soft's not the play. Patherman's not really gained much time on Milo at all. Stark is gaining tremendous amounts of time on Timalele, though. Through into P3 goes the Ferrari man. It's a comfortable move up the ranks for the man in Maranello. He can set his sights further forwards. Perhaps the hards were the play after all, and the mediums not providing that much purchase. Only time will tell. Just under 10 tours to go of the Mexico City Grand Prix, and we have another car that could potentially go for a move. Milo just saving battery for the time being. Their battle will be a legendary one. Sharpening their claws. Maximus and Milo. It's time to get jiggy with it. And possibly not punch someone on stage at the Oscars. Just a thought. Through the sweeping section once again. It feels like I've said that a plethora of times, and I actually have. Milo with DRS. Maximus has got nothing to fight with in a straight line. But again, you just want to wait for the main straight. As much of a pace differential as you feel like you might have. That is nothing compared to the amount of DRS strength. As good grief, Maximus has had a moment and actually gifted Milo P6. A huge plume of tyre smoke there as Maximus, I assume, overcooked it. Got a big slide off at the end of that hairpin section. And, well, it's cost him dear. It means Pathyman has company on the track. Stark and Timalele, meanwhile, still fighting away. Perhaps the Mercedes man looking to dive down the inside. Delightful send from Timalele, but he goes astronomically wide. And Stark just sweeps round the outside instead. Beautiful retaliation from the Ferrari driver. The Mercedes man might have thought he had it done and dusted, but outbroke himself. And that's all the opportunity that Stark needed. As the optimism overlord, around the outside he went. And his fortunes are certainly being raised all the time. Fortune favours Ferrari. The triple F. The triple threat. Terziak still remaining in DRS of Thanasi for the time being, though. Can't help but feel like Thanasi's just biding his time and waiting to pull the trigger, or perhaps the mediums just are not working as he would have hoped for. Such electric pace on the hard tyres, but could it all be undone? On board with the Aston Martin driver, Thanasi looking to break the slipstream a tiny bit. By the time they get to the end of the straight, though, it will be Thanasi that leads. And Tim's still not going for the move on Stark. Terziak not getting the exit he would have hoped for. Such is the difference between hards and mediums. Stark and Tim might have hards and mediums, but their actual tyre life difference is, well, hardly discernible. Further down the field, still somewhat equalising. However, Pathyman's the man on the move. Down the inside with soft tyres. Basically got it done before the corner had even arrived. And by the time they transfer their way through that section and into the double right-hander, Pathyman passes Maximus. And that is all that needs to be said. Terziak's still remaining in DRS range, by the way. Although, has he just slipped out of range? It just emerges to over a second. However, I think he was just inside at the detection point. Was he? No! No, he wasn't. Thanasi's finally escaped DRS. And now just has to put the throttle pedal to the metal. Magico says this is fun. I assume, considering he had the time to type that, it's not very fun. But you know what? All the time you're learning, and you're actually here. Those drivers that did not make the trek here will not be getting any points today. Points mean prizes in this game. Anything for the constructors' standings. Maximus not done with his scrap with Pathyman, though. It's a perler of a move from Maximus because of the DRS. Pathyman just has a little bit of a moment again over the curbs. That first chicane section, he's absolutely loathing life. Maximus loving life in comparison. Terziak remaining on the coattails of DRS still, unbelievably. Can't tell if this is actually Thanassi's proper pace. He's 8/10 off his personal best. Terziak, I would assume about the same, although don't quote me on that. There's a yellow flag, though. Oh, no, it's less fun. Magico's had a spin. And for style points, that burnout gets a solid 7 out of 10 from me, but... well, that is quite something. Terziak's within a 10th of his fastest lap. And I can only assume Thanassi is actually hoisting him along, because I doubt the mediums have dropped off that substantially in that short of a period of time. See what his battery situ is looking like. No, he is pushing. He's got not much battery to play with. And you heard there, as we just blipped onto his onboard, a bit of a slide through that first chicane section. So Thanassi actually struggling on the medium tyres. The hard tyres are indeed the play at this particular moment. He's looking to try and escape all the while. Pathiman, well, a complimentary perler of a pass thanks to the DRS. If I said Maximus's was a perler, despite the fact it was literally in a straight line and with flappage, Pathiman's is also a perler. Which really means my standard of overtakes have gone down substantially, and I need to have words with myself. Terziak remains within half a second of Thanassi. It's the closest he's ever been in the context of this race. And, well, if he keeps this up, he could well retake the lead of this Grand Prix. As Stark looking more and more likely to get away from Timalele. On his hard compound tyres, perhaps the mediums were not the way to go. Or perhaps they have a second wind further on into the stint, which Thanassi and Timalele are yet to find. Well within DRS, though, is Terziak. And I boldly assumed he was down and out, as there's more tyre smoke. Who on earth's gone off on the inside? Magico's kept so far out of the way, and it means Terziak can't actually overtake Thanassi. He's done Thanassi a favour there as Mr. Magico by going onto the grass and creating the yellow flag scenario. What was Terziak's prime opportunity there to simply breeze past has not come into fruition. In fact, the fruit has certainly turned sour from a gift that was once sweet for him. But he will certainly not give up. The Flying Scotsman has a score to settle. Miller's dropped a lot of time to Tyrrell up ahead. He was 5 seconds behind him. Now finds himself 9 seconds behind. And Maximus and Pathiman, the dynamic duo, they haven't been able to keep their mitts off each other. As again, Magico keeps well out of the way of Buck... I believe that's Buck 57, is it? No, it's not. It's an Alpine. I'm so stupid. I'm so sorry. Tyrrell's gone through on Magico. He's not completely gone off the... He's got front wing damage, so that is also probably why. But equally, going onto the grass is scarpering any overtaking opportunities that might have once happened. Milo's had an issue, and Maximus has as well. Lots of front wing damage out of the twisty and turny section. Both of them coming to blows, and would you believe it? In the final few laps, drama has descended on the Mexico City circuit, for a safety car has been deployed. Well, that is quite tasty, ladies and gentlemen. The potential to allow the field to bunch up. The front four, there's nothing in it in terms of their gaps. And if Thanassi thought it was a tough ordeal before to try and garner the race win, well, it's just become significantly more difficult for the Williams driver. The field bunched up again. All of the tyre deltas reduced to nothing. I'm assuming these front four will dare to pit. I mean, it's 24 seconds to Pathiman behind. And it would seem almost unwise to do anything but come into the pits and strap on the soft tyres. A gap now being developed by Stark, as Thanassi does not pit. Thanassi does not pit in this race. On his medium tyres, Terziak comes in, Stark comes in, Timalele comes in. They'll be on brand new soft tyres. Thanassi in trouble with that penalty. Absolutely. He's in even more trouble now, considering he's kept on the medium tyres. And if he wanted to make tonight even more catastrophically challenging, he certainly has done. But that was not part of the script whatsoever as he catches up to the back of the safety car. And, well, there are other soft tyre runners that are catching up to the back of the queue. I guess Thanasi potentially hoping that they won't catch up to the safety car, but they will. There's no doubt they will. To carry on with the context of this, by the way, Mr. Millo's in P1, by the way, 154 points. It's Tim in P2 with 114 points, and then J-Lane, P3 with 112 points. Safety car is in this lap. We have 2 laps of racing, and I can't help but feel Williams have bottled it. More specifically, Thanasi has bottled it. I genuinely cannot believe he did not go on to soft tyres to at least preserve a slightly better result. I mean, granted, at this rate, he's probably rightly assuming he won't lose a whole host of positions and will try and get racing as early as possible. But you know, equally, I can't help but feel something's gone catastrophically wrong as green flag racing is back. Thanasi pulls the trigger on the exit of the last corner, and we are back racing here at the Mexico City Grand Prix as Stark looks to be the man on the move. It's superb on the restart from the Scarlet Ferrari as down the inside dives Stark, trying to hold it round the outside is Terziak, and he does so brilliantly. Does the Aston Martin driver. It's Thanasi from Terziak, Stark, Timalele and Tyrrell in P5. Pathiman demoted to P6 behind his teammate, but keeping within that window, which Thanasi does definitely not want him to be in. That 3-second window. That will prove to be his guilt at the end of this race, that and not choosing to pit. Terziak practically pushing Thanasi through this twisting and turning section. It's a sidewinding moment for the Williams driver. And it's only a matter of time before the Aston Martin and the Ferrari and possibly even the Mercedes breeze through as Thanasi goes wide at the hairpin, looking for some slipstream to perhaps keep his race in play. But Terziak goes through, Stark goes through as we head on to the last lap of the Mexico Grand Prix. Terziak P1, Stark in P2, using the slipstream and the battery all the way through. To the outside goes the Ferrari this time. Buck 20 with the fastest lap of the race. Stark tries to go round the outside, but Terziak, with a stout defence, remains in P1 for the time being. Stark using every ounce of electrical energy he possibly can. Can he think about the fairy tale? He's going to look to the inside. Terziak not scared offline easily, and he does remain on the racing line. An attempt at a switchback from Stark, diving down the inside, contact made, and sliding round is the Ferrari. He has one more chance though. That DRS straight. That could be where the race is won or lost if he gets a good exit out of here. Opens the rear wing up to the best of his ability. He could do it, but he simply runs out of straight. And Terziak could do it. And look to the inside from the Ferrari driver. But it will not be enough. It is surely all things done. And when all is said and done, Terziak drove tremendously to win the Mexico Grand Prix. What a climax to the end of this one. Stark P2. Timalele takes P3. Thanasi remains in P4 at the end. Thankfully, for his sake, when all penalties are said and done, Pathiman takes P5. Tyrrell 6th. Buck 20 in 7th. Buck 57 in 8th. Maximus in 9th. And Miller will cross the line to round out the top 10. Big swim of the last car to finish, to round out the Mexico City Grand Prix. Whew. And breathe. Driver of the day, according to the game, is AMF1 driver Terziak. And I'll tell you what, That last lap defense was all he needed to do. Stark gave it absolutely everything to his credit. And fair play to him. But even so, it was not enough. It was not enough to stop the Flying Scotsman from stopping at his main station of the day. And that is top spot here in Mexico. The most delightful of stations. Another one to the collection for the Aston Martin driver here in the Blackout Racing League. He's won many, many times before. The championship has eluded him a number of times, rather guttingly for him. Perhaps this is the start of his fairy tale coming to fruition. A clink of the 7-Up free from each of the teams, and we won't see the running order. We will not see the running order, which is quite sad. But the point is, it was a great race. And kudos to the front three. Terziak, Stark, and Timalele, dueling it out to the very last moments. But when all was said and done, the Flying Scotsman simply soared the highest. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. That was a delightful start to proceedings this evening in the Blackout Racing League. Mexico is done and dusted. And next up, we will have the Netherlands, the Dutch Grand Prix. Waiting to see now if there are any clips going on. Any clips going on for the Mexico Grand Prix. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I do not know, because otherwise it has to be child-friendly gambling. And that's not very fun. By the way, Timalele's blimmin' practice for F1 24 is literally just playing Minecraft. He played for 4 hours yesterday. 4 hours. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your man chasing the championship lead, Mr. Timalele. Well, people that are here and witnessing greatness, what do we think? What did we think of that one? In many ways, it feels like Thanasi bottled it. And I don't really know why he didn't pick. Granted, with the penalty, he probably wouldn't have lost much anyway. Which is a fair cop. And you know what? He did finish P4 when he probably would have finished P4 regardless anyway, if he did pit for soft. So, fair enough. Saving the planet, one tyre at a time. Which is good for him. But, it does mean that what looked to be a potential race win on the cards, when all the cards were laid on the table, it unfortunately wasn't the royal flush for the Williams driver. Lady Luck did not play nice for him at Mexico, but it did play very nicely indeed for the 3 cars behind, particularly Mr. Terziak, who, well, created his own luck in many ways, kept up with Thanasi beautifully on the older and harder compounded tyres. And then when the safety car came through, there was, well, you could telegraph it from a mile away. You knew he was going to pit, you knew he was going to be on the fresh softs, and he knew he would not waste any time in trying to get past. And so he did not. Albeit Thanasi sort of parted the Red Sea for him, or the Navy Sea in that case. Either way, Terziak swam very ferociously, defended from Stark well, and took the win. So congratulations. Congratulations to Terziak. Congratulations to all the drivers, actually. No DNFs. No DNFs at all. And you know what? Pathyman went under the radar. He got P5. Well done, Mr. Pathyman. That was mighty impressive from you. And you know what? If anyone is disgruntled, let's just remember, you all scored points today. And that is a win for everyone involved. Right. Well, as far as I can tell, there are no clips. So, we're going to go to heaven. That's what we're going to do. No, I'm kidding. We're going to get on my Nintendo DS. And it is a Nintendo DS because Nintendo has problems with certain ways of playing their games now because they are trying to ban and strike accounts. So I'm on a Nintendo DS. You're welcome. Now, we've got 3,112 coins. As you all know, I do not miss. As the Blackout Season 15 champion, the main letter I saw was, well, as soon see, being 2 pairs. Let's just put 3 fingers up, which you can't see. But a W. Thank you very much. That's our first win of the day. Gambling. No, Pathy, man. Don't do this, man. Don't do it. Oh, full house. Oh, that's brilliant. A full house. What an absolute knob. Great, Pathyman's reported me and now he's laughing. I don't get a break. What is this about? Great, I got 1 pair and it's star. What a joke. Great, it's not even going to win, I bet. Yep, knew it. Absolutely knew it. Luigi has laced the cards up. He's on a Fent-induced rave to pure victory, which is rather unfortunate. Nah, Jalen, don't do that to me, man. We ain't getting spanked and shafted anymore. Not by this green plumber man. He can get his plumber stick right out of my business. Oh. I headbutted my mic, but then I remembered I got a pop filter on it, so it didn't make a sound. So I can't even rage properly. I can't win in any department. Right. I want more stars. Thank you. Gambling never pays in the end. You're not wrong. Oh, I won. Luigi's putting some extra butter. No, Luigi, don't do it. No, Luigi, you know what? Magic mushrooms, they're the answer to winning, aren't they? So the Utes claim. I've got 2 pairs. Magic mushrooms might be the way forward, ladies and gentlemen. As you'll see... Luigi's showing why he's the big brother. Well, because he's absolutely fisting me. What is this about? Give me a star, please. And more than 1. That, I've got nothing. I got absolutely nothing. What is that? Oh, 3 of a kind clouds. Now we're back. We are so back, ladies and gentlemen. We are so back. Let me cook. That's not 4 of a kind, but that's all I need. 3 of a kind. Thank you very much. See you later, son. You're rubbish, mate. A complete dumpster fire. A homunculus specimen. You don't deserve victory. You didn't give me the card I wanted, but I'm still going to win anyway. Good not... Why do I bother? Why do I actually bother speaking? All of these exhilarating words, and I still don't win. I have the vocabulary expansion of a sea lion, which is not that much, granted, but if you actually heard a sea lion speak English, you'd be surprised. Now, I've only got 1 pair, and it's a mushroom, and I've quite rightly completely lost. That's not gone as well as I would have hoped. Hold on, what are these rates? Mate, I'm not going to lie, it doesn't favour the house, it favours the player. I only put 4 coins in, and if I win, I get 4 times whatever's on the left. Just saying, Luigi's cooking, that's all I'm saying. I've got 2 pairs again. Luigi's had to do his whole hand. And, well, there you go. See you later. How about that? When you win, you gain... Yeah, you're right. Jalen, you're absolutely right. And the point is, Luigi is just that generous of a gambling man. I've got 3 of a kind in clouds, and that means we are puffing our way to victory. See you later, son. Luigi rigging the Mushroom Kingdom economy. Well, he might be putting more margarine in my pasta, which I'm not very happy about. But, yeah, well, the matter of fact is that actually he is causing the Mushroom Kingdom to spiral into crippling inflation. And for that, I salute him, because it means all of us at home can win more money. Like this. 3 of a kind in stars. Get out of my house. Gambling goblin over here, ladies and gentlemen. And I am digging my claws into more funds and fortune. Crucially, it's 2 pairs, Mario and a cloud. Scheisse. It's not great. Pathamon says, want to get 3,100 coins? Just give 5,000 coins to me and let me work my magic. Exactly. The thing is, if you gave 5,000 coins to me, I could turn it into 20,000 given Luigi's race. I don't see anything wrong with this. No clips coming my way. I'm watching all the while. I've lost again. I didn't even care that time. I was watching all the while to see if a big old clip got sent my way. But no. No, it did not. And so, we've got to wait just a little bit longer. Oh, 2 pairs. Give me a full house. Give me a full house. You know you love me. Oh, yes, he does. Give me that victory. You sket. Shut up. 24 coins. We are swimming in cash. And now we've got some stars to play with. Why you got to go and put stars in my eyes, Luigi? Oh my god, we've cooked. I've never got a 5 and a kind on this game, by the way. Never. 4 of a kind will do nicely, though. 32 coins, yes, please. So if I get a whole 5 of a kind, I get 64 coins. And then we really are raking it in. Give me 5 mushrooms. You know you want... Oh my god, that was so close. Yoo-hoo, big summer blowout. Luigi's being blown away. I was going to say blown off, but that's probably banned in several countries. Clouds, let's do it. Catastrophic clouds. No, they're not. 3 of a kind. We are cooking, ladies and gentlemen. It's another win, and we could get that all-important, albeit slightly for pride's sake, that 50 stars on the top right, basically. Oh, no, it's 50 stars on the bottom right of your screen. I apologise. But it's possible. And it could be possible with a good round like this. 3 of a kind stars. This could be it. Give me 50. Yes! 5-0 on the table. We are the chef. The kitchen has never been safer with me at the helm. I am seasoning up a storm. Another 3 of a kind. Bro, it is truly a big summer blowout. Or as I'll call it, a big winter whap. They never let me finish a sentence with this microphone. Unbelievable. Anyway, 2 stars. Give me a cookage. 3 of a kind. In stars department. Mate, we're flying. We are absolutely flying. There is no other way of putting it. We're up to 3,264 coins. We're getting closer and closer all the while to that 5,000 coin mark. And 2 pairs with Mario and stars means I've almost certainly won. Unless Luigi is a lucky overlord and he's not. Take that, son. You don't want it. Do you know what, Jalen? It might have been one of those, but unfortunately, the producer in my ear, who doesn't actually exist, stopped me from saying it. So, there you go. Can't even escape censorship in Blackout. Oh, for God's sake. Play the clip. My microphone broke. I can't play it. I'm sorry. Oh, right. I want you all to start praying. I want you all to start praying right now, because if we get a cloud, we've got a 5 of a kind. Allah, go up. Go. Give me a cloud. Give me a cloud. You slag! I didn't get it, and I've lost. No, I haven't. I've still won. It feels like a loss, though. Shame. But why did no one pray for me? That really hurt. That hurt my throat doing it like that. Oh, Jesus, we're starting Blackout. You know what? This is going to spell how well this race is going to go. If I lose, there will be carnage. And if I don't lose, there will still be carnage. So you don't win anyway. Ladies and gentlemen. Right, back to the Blackout Racing League. I'm done with this stuff. So, F124, Blackout goes to Zandvoort, where many grains of glory could be spread out amongst our Blackout racers. However, who will take the true top spot? We are about to find out, as we have now stopped child-friendly gambling, and it is time to get gnarly in the Netherlands. Welcome to short qualifying. We get underway in 10 seconds for some Netherlands nosh, who will chomp and chew their way to glory. Many, many questions, but I will have the answers for you very soon. Tim driving in the RB, subbing for me. That's nice of him. Yeah, why has he moved team? What's he done? Tim, why are you in the RB? What's going on? I mean, I guess there wasn't an RB on the grid, but he's just broken rank. He's left Magico all on his own. You could have slapped me in the RB, lads. I wouldn't have been any good, but at least there would have been an RB on the grid. Well, out of the pit lane, the first car out, I imagine it'll be Big Swimmer. And no, it's not. It is not Big Swimmer. It is, in fact, not Monsieur Pathiman. It's Pure Tarantula. In the Alpine car, through the banked corner of Turn 1. In fact, the majority of the corners at this track are banked. It's more of a roller coaster ride than a Formula 1 track. Not that I'm complaining. It's a lovely venue. But a massive lock-up into the left-hander. And could that spell trouble for the Alpine driver? Only time will tell. Second out onto the track, by the way, was the other Alpine. Big Sam didn't even get out to the track in second place. He's been demoted all the way down to third. But maybe it could get racy between these two. How about that? That could be very interesting. Very, very short lap here in the Netherlands. In fact, it's been 2 tracks tonight that have had relatively short laps on them. Almost none more so than this. In fact, the only track really shorter on lap time than I can think of is the Austrian Grand Prix. One day they'll put jet fuel in the cars again and they'll go under a minute round that track. But for now, we'll have to suffice with the timings we have at the moment. Let's ride on board with this man then. Pure Tyrrell piling on the pace. Let's enjoy him for an onboard lap of the Zandvoort circuit. Not much time, really, for revitalisation and resuscitation. The benchmark, then, a 1 minute 9.8, already under the 1 minute 10 barrier. Next driver to cross the line will be his teammate, Monsieur Pathema. Across the line, it's a 1 minute 10.7. That was almost a very offensive accent as well, I do apologise. Big Swimmer into P3. A multitude of seconds off the pace, but I doubt he used the RS. Someone's made a gravel trail around the outside of Turn 1. And there was a yellow flag as well. I think it was Buck 57. Although, don't quote me on that. I just saw a yellow flag and I saw a Williams-looking car. And I assumed it was him. So I'm sorry if it wasn't. Mr. Millo up into P2. Buck 20 in solidarity. McLaren right next door to each other. P2 and 3 at the moment for the Papaya outfit. And I've just hidden my spectator menu. That's a bit stupid, isn't it? Plenty of drivers still to complete a lap out here. Stark on an outlap. Someone who isn't on an outlap, though, is Mr. Maximus in the lean green machine. Through the final 2 corners he goes. And again, this high-speed slobber knocker provides another lap on the timing board in the form of the Stabilo highlighter. Across the line in the vitamin green machine. It's a 1 minute 12.0. Hopefully, for his case, it's not a vitamin D situation because he will have been shafted. Stark's just started a lap. Across the line goes the other Aston Martin to start a flying lap. Across the line will go Thanasi first. Across he goes, and it is a 1 minute 11.8. Although he's used absolutely no battery, so I don't blame him, really. Buck 57 also starting a lap. I believe he invalidated his last one. He hasn't got much battery to play with. But the point is, he's going for another lap around the Zandvoort circuit regardless. Look at that bank corner. In real life, you want to use the outside. Use the momentum of it, sweep it round, use the aggressive decline of it, really. Just carry the momentum all the way through. In this game, though, shortest line is the fastest line, so hug the inside and life is good. 7/10 up, and then going through the gravel goes the Stabilo highlighter. Right. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to have a bit of a rant here because they said in the patch notes that they made the Ferrari engine more realistic for Season 3. Did they fuck? Stark across the line is 1 minute 19.8. He's washed. But never mind. He goes for another bite of the cherry in Sebastian Vettel's numbered car. Oh no, Buck 57's had a problem. Into the final bank corner. Stay out of the way of Magico-san, who's actually done a very decent lap. I'll tell you what. 1 minute 10.918. Very close behind Big Swimmer. Suddenly, his fortunes have flipped around. Is this him showing us he wants some extra practice? Him being Thanasi? Yes, it is. It absolutely is. When he normally does that, it is him just doing some extra practice. He's already gone 4 tenths faster on that last lap. And now through the right-hander he goes. A moment of pure academics from the Williams driver. Change your sound setting from broadcast to onboard as it's a little bit beefy. I will do that in a second. Once Stark, who's just done a purple sector 2, comes round the final 2 corners. Through the banked curve, hug the inside as much as possible with a bit of lawn mowing to boot. But when the clippings are all taken into account, it's 8th place for Mr. Stark. It is a purple sector 2. However, the first and last leave a lot to be desired. And now to find out where this sound setting is quickly before Terziak finishes his lap. Audio settings, we want to go and find... where is it? Where is it? Onboard. Broadcast. Must be broadcast. Oh, there you go, then it's broadcast. Right. Broadcast. There we go. How does it sound now? I mean, it's a Ferrari. It's a Ferrari in the same way I'm from Pakistan. It's a Ferrari from Timu, but through the final corner goes the Flying Scotsman. Across the line he goes, and it's P1 on the road. Just over 700ths of a second is the gap the Aston Martin ace has built for himself. And he has well and truly found himself in the present moment and not halfway across the globe. Terziak is on it like a car bonnet. How's Thanasi's race practice going? Well, the answer is he's 11 seconds down in his time, so it can't have gone astronomically well, but it seems like he's plodding along nicely. Timalele's still in the pit lane, by the way. Perhaps he realised he's committed a felony and a sin from being in the Visa Cash App RB. Yeah, not fixed. No, I hate that because the patch notes say... I'm going to have a rant again, as long as no one's on... Oh, God, everyone's on a lap. Never mind. See, my beef with it... as Tyrrell's already a 10th and a half up as he goes through the first sector split. That is mighty quick. My beef with it is that... Well, they said they're not going to change it because they made it more realistic in like a previous update or whatever. Pathman's just gone purple through Sector 2. He's absolutely flying as Monsieur Frenchman. And through the final 2 corners, he will travel as fast as he possibly can. The car hunkering down as much as possible. The aerodynamics gluing him to the surface. And Pathiman will cross the line for a low 1 minute 10 and P3 for the time being. Tyrrell is just over 2 tenths up on his current time. Shortest line of resistance. Almost 3 tenths of an improvement. And Terziak has it all to do all over again. Tyrrell is finding very much fortune in his favour here in the Netherlands so far. I feel like Stark's also doing race practice at this point. Like, what's going on? Oh, Thanasi's gone P3 on much older tyres. Never mind, he's awake. Good morning, Williams. Might be Richards at the front of the field, but Thanasi is trying to claim the treasure for his own. 8 minutes to go in this qualifying session. The Ferrari of Stark has just gone round the slow-ish Alpine. He's 6 tenths down, but I think also doing race practice, so don't read anything into it. And Mr. Millo, meanwhile, has gone P5 with a 1 minute 10.2. There's plenty of battery to play with, though, and goes for another lap. His teammate there on the right-hand side, just exiting the pit lane. I can tell from the end plate of the car. You can't miss the orange. There's no other team that does it like McLaren. Through the bank corner, and Miller's gone slightly wide. Has skated over the outside curb. And, well, whatever lap he was trying to conjure up, he saved all the battery. He will go again at the end of it. And perhaps we'll give his teammate a little bit of a juicy slipstream. That would be quite interesting, wouldn't that? Well, this is the tyre situation, ladies and gentlemen. We don't look at it very often, but only 2 drivers have stayed out on second-hand, third-hand comatose tyres. Those being Thanasi and Stark. 5 laps, respectively. Got Milo, who's on newish tyres. We've got Buck 57, who has got a 1 minute 10.6 on the board, as opposed to a Spinala on the track. So that is good news for him. Timalele, the only one not to set a lap, but that will change very shortly. Through the final 2 corners goes the Visa Cash App contactless Red Bull specified car. And what can Timalele do? Does he have to refinance pole position for the moment? Yes, he does. It is not quite pole position for the contactless bank transfer car. He will have to wait and let the Cash App change hands, spons, at a later point in this session. Timalele would have very much hoped he bossed that particular lap. Unfortunately, not to be. Although it's P3 is no... Let's not scoff at P3. It is admirable. Zandvoort, by the way, one of the few tracks I didn't get pole position at, it feels like, during the Blackout Racing Series on the Season 15. It was P2 I only got in the end. I say only. But Thanasi was the man that got pole position. He knows this track like the back of his hand. RB has been good to me this season. It has been extremely good to you. Mr. J Lane. Of course, race winner over the Bahrain Grand Prix and podium dweller in Saudi Arabia as well. Had a very, very fruitful week in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. As a result, at the beginning of this week, he stood 3rd in the championship. Of course, races have happened since then. Who knows what the stipulations are after Mexico and whatnot have been concluded. That will all be found out very shortly. As Buck 20, by the way, has just gone up into P3 with a 1 minute 10.0. The track evolving and rubbering in all the time. Improvements happening with every single second this session goes on. Buck 57's gained a little bit of time as well. He's just gained 2 temps on the board. Just raised the gap between himself and Big Swimmer. But he himself has a full complement of battery and has his flap open. That's disgusting, but the point is, it's now time for one of his final flying laps, his final bite of the cherry, and perhaps the nail in the coffin for those around him, if they have a hope of catching him. But he's got to put the good lap in first. That is the priority. Buck 20, by the way, easily has enough time to get into the pit lane, strap on a new set of tyres, and then do another lap. Such is the timing that he has been able to do. Stark, by the way, still out there doing race practice. Surely he comes in at the end of this lap to peel into the pit lane. Again, another spot of lawn mowing, and that could have ended disastrously for the Ferrari driver. Now decides not to play chicken with the green stuff anymore. The bitumen is where your car is supposed to be. The geography of Formula 1, ladies and gentlemen. Big Swimmer, 2 thousandths down on his current personal best. And I'll tell you what, you can't do him for consistency, but he does have to improve, obviously, if he wants to get further up the field. And so, hugging the inside of the final banked corner, slingshot out of there, and he's given up. It's pit lane time. It is pit lane time for Mr. Big Sam. Maximus, by the way, improves a massive amount. It's 1.1 seconds worth of an improvement, but it's only the one position he can hoist himself up in the Stabilo highlighter. Some Senna throttle blipping there, according to the audio. That was rather spicy. Miller a 10th up on his time at the moment, and will conclude this lap What can Milo's time be on the board? It is a 1 minute 9.9, the third driver to breach the barrier this session. And Milo makes it a McLaren second row. 3-4 for the Papaya Pros. As the Mercedes man of Magico enters the fray. I seem to remember last season Buck 20 being strong here. He certainly was. At the moment, dwelling in P4. And plenty more to do. The Ferrari driver, the pit lane, erupts into life as engines ignite. Not in that sense, that'd be quite sad. But the point is, Stark is out of the pit lane, followed closely by an Alpine, by an Aston Martin, and everyone else will follow suit shortly. It's Stark and then current pole sitter Tyrrell next down the road, and then the man who sits currently P9. Mr. Big Swimmer. Maximus, by the way, has gone across the line. He's going for yet another lap. Has saved up the battery on some older tyres. Is going again. I respect the bravery. However, the tyres could be well and truly goosed as Mr. Magico begins what will surely be his final flying lap of this qualifying session. Through towards turn 1. The Mercedes man goes. Does, in our words, hug the inside. But a snap of oversteer on the way out. Just a bit too trigger happy on the throttle pedal. And that means he just loses a bit of time on the exit. Much more stable out of the bank corner though. And now it's full, all guns blazing towards the right-hander. The bank corner, you basically don't have to lift. Change down the gears, keep it in full throttle. Keep it pinned. Bravery will pay off. And then switch down one gear, use a bit of the curb on the inside, brake, a slight lock up on the front right, but carries the momentum very nicely. Way after the 50-meter board. It's insane how late you can brake and how much confidence you can have in the car that it will just hunker down. And Magico's done that brilliantly. Brake when the curb starts on the left-hand side, perhaps cut more of the curve than you think. Hug the inside, and then as soon as you can, straighten the car down. Get that throttle pedal jammed to the floor. Slight change down, only the one gear can carry a bit more momentum than you think, and then hug the inside of this corner. The point is though, Magico wasn't even pushing. He saved his battery and he's going again. I'll tell you who was pushing though, and it wasn't Tyrrell. Pathyman crosses the line to start his final flying lap. Maximus, by the way, made it up to P9 when all was said and done, so well done him. How is Big Sam 2 thousandths down again on his lap? I can't fault his consistency whatsoever, but rather unfortunately, it's not going to be a substantial improvement for the Aston Martin driver. Full send through the penultimate corner. DRS open all the way around the bank corner, and Milo and Stark's sessions are done. A 1 minute 10.1 is all the Ferrari driver could muster up. Big Sam crosses the line. That's his qualifying session done as well. Tyrrell won't be able to find improvements in his time. Terziak, though, is. Thanasi will be first across the line, and he's 4 tenths up, and that could be very ominous for the ones in front of him, particularly towards pole position. Thanasi can get into P2, but pole remains safe for the time being. Timalele, where does he go? He can't improve. Not as much as he would have hoped for. Buck 57, Buck 20 retired, should I say. Milo's the one in the pit lane. Buck 20's crashed out of the final corner. That's what's happened. Terziak across the line. It's not pole position. It will remain in Tyrrell's hands. An invalidation for Mr. Buck 57. Pathyman's gone around the lap of Spa for the most part, so he won't improve. Your pole sitter is the Alpine, and Tyrrell takes top spot in this qualifying session. Magico, by the way, with a very impressive lap at the last, a 1 minute 10.5, hoists himself up 2 positions into P10. The back end of the 5th row of the grid beckons for the now lone Mercedes driver because Timalele has broken rank. What happened to your allegiance, sunshine? 2 drivers with the number 5, by the way. Timalele's got it, which is fair enough because he is German. Stark's also got the number 5. It'd be funny if the whole grid had the number 5 on. As that will do it. Qualifying done and dusted. And Alpine, for them, it feels like annihilation. The margins being so fine normally at Zandvoort, a tenth of a second can almost feel like a lifetime. Tyrrell takes pole position and the Dutch flag flies highest at the Dutch Grand Prix, at least for now. The Flying Scotsman in P2, Thanasi in P3, McLaren's Milo and Buck 20, 4th and 5th respectively. Timalele in 6th, Stark in 7th, Pathiman in 8th, Buck 57 in 9th, and Magico rounding out the top 10, with Maximus and Big Swimmer rounding out our whole grid lineup. J-Lane says, so when you return to racing, what seat do you want? A return to Alpine, or are your sights elsewhere? Well, that's a very good question. And the simple answer is, I don't know. I don't know where I want to fly the flag, or which team I want to try and use to stomp on the opposition with. Although being on a controller, it probably won't happen, but, you know, it'll be fun. I'll give it a good go regardless on that other medium. I don't know if I want to taint my Alpine legacy by returning to them on a controller. That's my only thing. I feel like I'll do them a disservice, so it might be a Haas or a Kick Sauber job if I ever return. Bring the minnows to the front, or at least do my best to. That'll be the plan. Well, we wait with bated breath and a mounting anticipation. Look at the Paddock Club, they are loving it. They are absolutely loving it. Not as much as they'll love this, though. It's 5 red lights. Lights out and away we go, and Tyrrell gets a decent start. Terziak pays his compliment to Big Slide. He swipes across Terziak. The car not under control, and it's carnage into turn 1 as he pinched on the inside of the McLaren. Stark's been run off the road by Buck 20. Good grief, what's happened there? The Williams man of Buck 57 is... Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Well, it could get interesting, folks. Who's going to have the most creative takedown? Through the banked right-hander we go. That's probably why Stark was pushed off the track. Oh, never mind. It's sorted itself out. Milo leads. Thanasi second. Stark is third. Buck 20's in fourth. Stark down the inside of Thanasi. As goes Buck 20. Big slide from Terziak. No one can keep it together in this early phase. But Milo is romping clear at the moment, ahead of the Ferrari and his teammate. Thanasi has Timalele in his crosshairs. Through goes Tim. Through goes Buck 57. What on earth is going on? It's almost like Thanasi's got an AI on him, and I think he does, you know. I think Thanasi's disconnected. Down the inside goes Terziak. Pathiman goes down the inside. Good grief, that could have been a plane crash. Through the banked corner. And Thanasi, who thought he had such a good start, maybe disconnected with his wheel as well. But through goes absolutely everyone. And for Thanasi, it's the sinking feeling. Buck 57's now a minute ahead of Tyrrell, who's now a minute behind Buck 57. I have no idea what is going on. Maybe if I do a bit of this, if I Alt-Tab out, it will actually fix itself. As Timalele has gone past Buck 57, although I thought it was already past him, so it's a bit of an interesting one. Buck 20 went well here last season. Looking to do the same again here this season. DRS, of course, enabled on this lap. You hear the beeps coming through on the McLaren man's wagon. Looking to fire past the Ferrari. For now, though, just has to bide his time a little bit. Thanasi is moving away, and yes, he did disconnect. He's just rejoined. And now the Williams driver has got it all to do. As Buck 20 with DRS gets the fastest lap briefly. Then it goes to Tyrrell and Timalele. It's all changing hands. But down the inside goes Buck 20. And through into P2 he goes. So after slashing Stark off the track, which was rather harsh clearly because the timing screens definitely weren't wrong, the McLaren finds himself into P2. Oh no, Tyrrell's gone off. The pole sitter's had a moment. A big spin and front wing damage. Maybe contact, I'm not entirely sure. But through goes Tanasi. He's already made a position up. And he's been on the game for about 5 seconds. Let's actually make sure it's him. No, it's not. No, it is not. It is not even slightly Thanasi. I can tell from the way he's broke into that corner, which you almost certainly don't have to do. Buck 20 with some extreme pace and dragging Stark and Tim along with him. And now Milo will feel the pressure mounting onto him at a rapid rate of knots. Look at the helicopter shot. Absolutely beautiful. And now for the aerial assault on proceedings. Never mind, we're back on terra firma. But Buck 20 is looking to trounce his teammate. No histrionics, just going down the inside of Mr. Milo. Into P1 he goes, and Stark dives down the inside. OptimismOverlord.com, but Milo holds it round the outside. We'll have the inside line for the bank corner. As a result, could well keep this P2. Momentum is in favour of the Ferrari, and Milo leaves the space. It means Stark has a great chance as they try and use all of their horses up the hill. In the end, the irony is the prancing horse doesn't have the legs. Tyrrell into the pit lane then, and well, it's not fun, is it? Oh no, through the gravel! Buck 20's gone through the gravel. He rejoins in front of Buck 57. The battle of the Bucks will now begin to rage on. But all of the phenomenal pace that Buck 20 had has completely been nullified. Now he has to keep his wits about him. Meanwhile, it's line astern. He can hardly separate them, these three. Milo, Stark and Timalele. Good grief. Line astern, but there will be DRS for the Ferrari driver. Down the main straight they go, and Stark breezes through into P1. Timalele will try and duck underneath the McLaren as well to claim P2, but Milo's defended that one before, and he'll certainly try his best again. Holding it round the outside, turns to the inside for the bank corner, and now once again it'll be a foot race up the hill, but Tim has more battery, and that could be all the impetus he needs to sweep through into P2. Stark P1, Timalele P2, Milo demoted to P3. Yes, Daniel! How you doing, man? Great to hear from you. I hope everything's going well. Lap number 5 of the Dutch Grand Prix. I'm hyped now. Stark's your leader, Timalele second, Milo in third. It's DRS trains galore. And given how this race is going, there could well be blood and gore. Goodness me. How are things? They are very, very good, thank you. They are doing absolutely excellent. They are very excellent indeed, and they could be even more excellent for the man behind Stark. Timalele, Stark's Scarlet World, just got painted crimson. Through goes the Visa Cash App RB car into P1 as Buck 20 gets through on Terziak. Round the outside, it's a dicey duel, but it goes in favour of the McLaren man, who keeps going on his merry way. Tim has the lead then, but this is very much going to be the tale of two ends. That being if you don't have DRS and you do have DRS. You have way too much power with the slipstream and the DRS. So as you can see, Stark easily able and more than capable to stick onto the back of Timalele like super glue. And Milo able to have a front row seat to proceedings. This is the story that's going to unfold during this race. Buck 20 has great pace in that car and great pace around this track. But Terziak, all he needs to do is stay within a second, and look how many cars there are. Oh my goodness me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars attached onto the back of the Buck 20 Express. Magico on the back of it and keeping a watchful eye on the proceedings up ahead of him. Meanwhile, back into the lead goes the Ferrari man. Basically, DRS training one another. And Milo dives down the inside of Timalele as well. It could be double trouble, but the Visa Cash App man does very well to maul Milo with the momentum he has so expertly claimed around the outside. Fair play to Timalele there. I'll do my best, lad. Speaking of which, into the pits. Someone else who is doing their best for revitalization and resuscitation is Mr. Maximus. Mr. Maximus, as my controller has a fit. But the point is, he's fitting on a new front wing. He needed a new nose. Voldemort was a happy man. Now he's sad again because his exclusivity has been returned to him, and he'd rather it wasn't returned to him at all. Tyrrek had lost his front wing initially, but is going to be relatively close to the back of Maximus. Thanasi had disconnected for a brief moment, but has managed to regain control of his Williams wagon and is wrangling down the seconds of the cars ahead of him, down to 6.7, now down to 6.6, gaining multiple attempts through every single corner, although not that one. The exit wasn't as prime and perfect as he would have hoped, but the Williams driver, again, has the bit between his teeth. First of all, it was misfortune in the form of the Mexico Grand Prix where he got half spun at the beginning of the race. Now it's disconnection problems that have put pay to any hopes of fighting at the front at the beginning stanza of this one. So he has got it all to do once again. Front three, practically line astern still. Stark goes very wide out onto the curb. That's not going to pay dividends whatsoever. Timalele looking to reimburse his P1. He feels like reclaiming what is he feels like is rightfully his. But he's got to do it cleanly and elegantly. Those are the rules. I don't make them, although it feels like I just did for that particular occasion. Onto the back straight, in fact the pit straight they'll go once again. Buck 20 in his train, you could just see in the background of that shot. But Stark again in the Scarlet car, driving sumptuously, but there's only so much slipstream and DRS deploying that Timalele needs to sweep back through into the lead of the Dutch Grand Prix once again. And Terziak is through into P4. Stark not giving up without a fight though, down the inside. Good grief, he's loving life at the front of the field, giving some great racing at the front three. And Stark has a good run now and a great chance to try and slipstream and dive down the inside quite possibly into the bank corner, but time always running out. Unless you're absolutely alongside and it's just a side-by-side foot race down towards the right-hander, it's never ever going to happen. Perhaps looking to dive down the inside of the right-hander, a move I did on Terziak 2 seasons ago. That was a fun move at the beginning of the race. Me and Thanasi then proceeded to DRS train each other about 30 seconds away from the rest of the field. And that was great fun. Magico's got past Big Sam. Well done, sir. Nice little move from you. Although now doesn't have DRS himself, and that could be a rather alarming situation for him. Although a decent left-hander. Not within DRS at the detection zone, though. Someone who definitely was, though, is the Ferrari man. There's only so much excitement I can whip up for it because it's academic at this point. Through into the lead goes Stark once again with the dastardly dose of DRS once again and devilishly sucking up the slipstream. He has made his way through once again into the big time. Terziak again got past Buck 20, and actually these lot behind are catching the cars that are in front of them. Oh no, Magico, what's happened there? He's had a moment. And look who's waiting to pounce. Thanasi's been chipping away, licking his lips for a battle to emerge, and now it has. On his soft tyre, speaking of which, here's the tyre situation. A little bit of a disparity. 2 drivers on the softs, of those that haven't pit yet. 2 on the softs. Maximus is out of this race. He's retired. The Dutch Grand Prix has been a disaster. Commentator, oh, not again. Magico, I'm so sorry, man. Well, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Lap number 10. We're into double figures at least of this Dutch Grand Prix. And plenty more action to go. The Ferrari man of Stark in the lead, but possibly not for long because Timalele has got DRS. And as much as Stark will try and defend to the inside, actually, you know what? He's done well. He has kept the lead. And Maximus' stricken kick Sauber is going to veer off to the left-hand side and bow out of the spotlight here in Zandvoort. As Thanasi, meanwhile, gets through into P9. Magico held it around the outside for as long as possible. But there's only so much you can do when a charging Thanasi's on your case. Trust me, I should know. Pathyman's got past Buck 57, meanwhile. The car's just beginning to disconnect themselves from one another a tiny bit. No more of a raucous, hungry DRS caterpillar in the middle of the field. Pathyman gets through into P6 and will try and hang on to the coattails of the DRS of Terziak up ahead. Buck 20, meanwhile, I imagine pushing like hell because he's almost within range of Milo up ahead. He's got great pace in that McLaren car, takes the narrowest line through the left-hander and was agonisingly close to getting in that DRS range, but not to be. And again, another driver that is Timalele deploying the battery, and resistance is futile. The V-Carb car moves up into P1, and Milo dives down the inside of Stark once again. He's waiting for his opportunity at every single nook and cranny of this track, but Stark sweeps round the outside with a bit of gaseous gremlins thwarting my plans, but Milo putting up a good piece of racecraft to try and prize away P2 and just try and move up a little bit. Looked like Buck 20 had the pure pace initially, but the McLaren man of Milo keeping the front two. Very, very honest indeed. Timalele did have a 7/10 gaps, briefly went down to half a second, but Stark will have the DRS, which is the crucial thing for him. Looking at the rear view of Timalele, this is the view I saw on Max Verstappen's car for most of pretty much the whole second half of the race. So Sky Sports don't give you the option to change which view you want to see, so that's really fun. Meanwhile, Buck 57 has really got some problems on his hands. Look behind him and oh no! Big Swimmer is there. So let's ride on board, or rather have a good viewpoint of the Aston Martin driver as Terziak gets through into P4. Those two, Terziak and Buck 20, just trying to use DRS to ricochet them towards the front. And Big Sam might have the DRS, but hasn't got the straight line purchase he would have hoped for. Has to remain in P8. Just keeping an eye on what Thanasi's pace is looking like at this particular stage as well. Around the 2.5 second mark behind Big Sam. And gaining multiple tenths of a second through those section of corners. And there's a yellow flag. No! Magico, and he does need a new nose. Voldemort's a happy bunny. Magico doesn't find that funny because he's lost his front right end plate. And of course it's a front right end plate. It's not like he's lost his rear right end plate because rear wings don't have end plates anymore. At least not that substantial in comparison to what they used to be. Let's put it that way. All aboard the Timbo train. He's got all of the delicacies you could ever need. Even in the gift shop, there are delicacies to be had. Including Christmas decorations, because apparently it's Christmas everywhere. All of the multi-purpose tools you would need to make your everyday life much easier. Including some cooking appliances, probably. That or just an air fryer. And even a Paint Me Crimson record. He remains in the lead. I thought Stark was going to go for a dastardly lunge initially. But no, it didn't happen. It did not happen whatsoever. I went to lap number 14 of the Dutch Grand Prix. Pathyman's got back onto the coattails of DRS, of Terziak and Buck 20 ahead. Pathyman's got great pace in that Alpine car. Not gone particularly well for his teammate behind, but Pathyman doing the job for the French outfit. And the French connection, I tell you what, running rampant like the Eurostar. Yes, he might be in sick. Oh, no. Magico's had another moment and a lot of tyre squeal. For some reason, in the sound effects there, in my ears, I heard tyre squeal as if Magico were coming out of the garage. Was that just me making things up? Or was that Codemasters not knowing how to code? Only the big questions here as Thanasi's got to the back of Big Sam and Buck 57's little scrape. But can Buck 57 actually make it through? As Stark will get through into the lead. We don't really need to watch that because we know that's going to happen. There it is. Buck 20 gets through into P4. And Big Sam can finally get past Buck 57. It's been brewing for a long time, but in the end, it was a culinary concoction crafted to perfection. And Big Sam certainly has the sweet taste of P7 for the Aston Martin outfit. And now Williams have some questions to answer. Do they let Thanasi at Big Sam, or do they go a racing? We shall find out. Mr. Magic goes into the pit lane then, and it will be medium tyres to the end of this race, as well as a nose job. That's disgusting, really. How many times? I mean, well, they haven't... Well, it's alien work because they had a stencil to go over. They literally had the blueprint in terms of where to put the front wing, so they couldn't possibly have missed. That's how F1 teams actually do it, but they don't want you to know that secret. Buck 20 again. I can't believe he's so agonisingly close to DRS. It's not even funny for him. Again, just evades him on this lap. But Timalele, the lead of the race, ain't going to evade him. Stark pushes him to the inside as much as possible. But Timalele, way before the corner even gets underway, is through into P1. Stark looks to the outside to try and run rings around the V-carb car. But Timalele remains stout, remains strong, and remains up at the top of the pack. If someone's had a problem, it's Buck 57. Thanasi's got past Big Sam, which is great news for him. He can now look up the road and set his sights on Pathiman and Terziak up ahead, which would be great news for him. But given the evidence we saw in Mexico, perhaps the hard tyres are actually the way to go. Because the mediums seem to fall off. They drop like a stone. Nail off a cliff. Even Greenpeace are confused at the rate of erosion of these Pirelli tyres. They don't even know what's going on. Buck 20, can he get DRS this time? No, he can't. He's again very close, but no. It's not happening. Through the final corner once again, and Stark's deploying ERS with DRS at his disposal. And guess what? No prizes for guessing what happens next, if indeed it does happen. Stark looking to the inside. Timalele does actually leave space. A bit of contact made on the side pods. A little bit frosty between the two of them, but Timalele keeps his cool, as does Stark, and they remain within the game. As Thanasi enters the pit lane. Pulls the trigger. It will be medium tyres to the end of this Grand Prix. Out goes the My Protein car. Built like a brick. But has to bulk up on some medium tyres. As Pathiman looks very racy. He's trying to get past Terziak. Almost looking to the inside of the right-hander, which is rather unbelievable. Maybe another chance into the next corner had he been extremely close and up for it. But no, nothing doing this time. All about patience in this one. Patience is a virtue. All the while you're in this DRS train, you can save battery, save fuel, and to some extent, save some tyres. Because that's how strong the slipstream is. Even after a mediocre corner, you know the slipstream is going to bail you out. That's the joy of it. Through the banked court. Nah, my voice had a stroke. But start with DRS, and using ERS as well, is down the inside, and into the turn one, he's into the lead. Again. The Ferrari man. Would you believe it? I know. I can't. Oh, side-by-side action. That's more like it. Terziak going round the outside of Buck 20. Still remaining side-by-side. These two can ill afford to do that if they really want to try and threaten the front three positions. But they're still going. A switchback from Buck 20, which looked to have paid off initially. But the momentum just wasn't marvellous enough. And the Flying Scotsman, again, moves up into P4 as Big Swimmer emerges from the pit lane on a fresh set of soft tyres. See what Thanasi can do then on these new tyres. On board with the Williams driver then. Using the gap, the delta between himself and Buck 57 as a gauge really of just how powerful the newer tyres are at this stage. Thanasi pushing it right to the ragged edge. Millimetric precision. J-Lane's absolutely right. Softs for 18 laps is ambitious. It's very ambitious. In fact, not impossible, fundamentally. It is basically out of the question, but Big Sam is a man who is willing to take that risk, and so he has. I'm assuming those on the mediums now will try and go on softs to the end of the race, but, well, you never know what this man's capable of, and within not even a whole lap, within about 2/3 of a lap, he's gained 1.3 seconds on his teammate Terziak. Thanasi absolutely flying out there and could easily hoist himself up and bring himself into play with the front runners later on in this contest. just with how much he is pushing out there at this stage. Unbelievable stuff from the Williams driver. The gap almost dipping under 11 seconds compared to his teammate. Big swimmer as well, doing his best to use his pace while he can before the tyres contract pneumonia and die. Stark's retaking the lead of the race. Timalele, though, will surely prize it away from him again. And Milo just is eating all the popcorn. Bad news is Luigi put butter in the popcorn as well, so it's going to be a slightly sordid affair. But DRS once again, Stark defends to the inside. Tim not looking to threaten with DRS. In fact, just saving battery at this stage. Has got all of the battery in the world to play with, and Thanasi's going to dip that gap below 10 seconds. He's catching the cars ahead by a second a lap, and people better sit up and take notice at this stage, because there is a big, big undercut coming through for the Williams driver. Thanasi can't get enough of the Zandvoort circuit. Only a 10th off his fastest lap of the Grand Prix. This big swimmer remained well in range, actually, all things considered, on those soft tyres. They will have that purchase for the time being, but give it 3 laps, 3 more laps, no, done. Absolutely dishevelled. Timalele, can you go for an overtake at a different point? No. No, he can't. Maybe Pathaman can, though. That'd be interesting. Terziak through this little chicane bit, trying to hang on to the DRS of Buck 20. But hang on to the DRS, he has not. The car looking rather unstable out there, but frisky. Pathaman himself getting frisky and jiggy with the curves on the outside. Terziak saving his battery because he's dipping into the pit lane. Pathaman had DRS, it would have been a gazumping for the Alpine. But he moves up into P5, Terziak into the pit lane. And now it's time to see where he comes out versus Thanasi, who's just rounding the final corner. Terziak will get the pit limiter off now, but look how close it's going to be versus Thanasi. Round the first corner comes the Williams driver, and I'll tell you what, that is a maliciously good undercut. Thanasi overtakes Terziak. And, well, Buck 20 better have his wits about him, because he might be next on the gazumping list. Thanasi with a marvellous undercut, but remember now, it's soft tyres versus those mediums. 4 laps worth of differential as well. Thanasi now has it all to do in this position. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, these lot better be a bit considerate. If Thanasi's already got onto Terziak, and he was only 3 seconds-ish behind the leaders, then... well, all I'm saying is they better get going into the pit lane, and so they all have, except for Stark, who faints the call to come into the pit lane, stays out for 1 more lap, just to have a tiny bit more life at the end of the race than his opposition. It means Pathaman moves up into P3. Look at that. The French connection, the Eurostar. London to Paris with a special in Zandvoort, locking up into the left-hander. Pathaman's had great pace round the Netherlands circuit as Terziak moves up into P6 ahead of Thanasi, and out come Timalele and Milo. The gap 3 seconds between themselves and Terziak and Thanasi, who are trying to apply much pressure. Stark has to pit at the end of this lap. There is no other way, simply. The new tyres just have so much more pace and purchase in them. It would be foolish to stay out another lap on the medium tyres. Yes, you have the offset, but really, is it worth it in the grand scheme of things? I doubt so, and Stark thinks much the same. Into the pit lane goes the Ferrari driver, and now we wait to see where Timbo and Milo will emerge. Well, by the time Terziak was trying to come out of the pit lane, Thanasi had just gone around the final corner. Stark very lucky not to be held up by Buck 20 in that set of pit stops. Down the straight comes Mr. Timalele and Mr. Milo. Stark is going to emerge in provisional P3 in this race, and quite a substantial amount behind the 2 ahead. Oh no! Tyrrell's had a problem, a huge, huge problem. Has had a big spin moment. clouted barrier. And with front wing damage, he's getting well out of the way of Magico, who goes round the right-hander and ascends up into P10. But Tyrrell's Day, the pole sitter, where it all looked pristine, it's gone from bad to worse for the Alpine driver. Into the pit lane he goes. And hopefully it doesn't spell the end of his Dutch Grand Prix, but it could well do. There's still fastest lap points up for grabs. You can never say never in this game. New wings deployed, and the number 21 car feeling like he's in P21 in comparison to everybody else. But it is not working. Hello everyone, Carl from the future here, and I am ludicrously livid, and you know why? It's because my computer has the performance retention powers of a colander. And that's an insult to what a colander is, because it might have loads of holes in it, but at least it still does its job properly. My computer, on the other hand, suck an egg. Right, I think I've got most of my rage out there. That's all the break I needed. Essentially, we're going to return to the Netherlands. It's a few laps later. I'm very sorry. The same thing's going to happen next race as well. So, just be warned. But that's enough waffle from me. Enjoy the rest of the race. Let's go! Are we back? I think we're back. I believe we are back. Hello? Have I returned? Is the nightmare no longer happening? Am I still here? I hope I am. If I am, welcome back. I've just rejoined. Everything just crashed on me. It's a terrible time. But who knows who has the lead anymore? That's the mystery of it. That's the mystery that I now have to enjoy with you all as well. Who is actually leading the race? Who has had an oopsie? That is all about to be unveiled to us. And when it is, I'll be very happy. However, this game is taking longer to load than a whole Star Wars The Last Jedi sitting. And ultimately, Star Wars The Last Jedi is terrible. So, there you go. I think we're back. Please tell me I'm back. Please tell me I'm back. Please tell me I'm back. Don't do this. Yay, I'm back! Ladies and gentlemen, we're on board with Tyrrell, but Timalele has the lead, and Stark has managed to catch up to the back of this train, and once again, these three go into combat. It's slight roles reversed, though. Stark was the man in P2 last time, and he could dictate when he wanted to make the overtakes. Now he doesn't have that luxury and freedom. Milo is the one with that comfort at his disposal, and down the inside goes the McLaren man. Milo looking to lead the Dutch Grand Prix, and he's through into the lead. The McLaren man ascends up the order. He's been in P3, he's been the bridesmaid for so long, but now he can finally get his dress on. And that's probably the weirdest thing I've ever said. Milo leads the Dutch Grand Prix. I need to get all of this set up again. What a joke. What on earth happened there? Right, to put it in context then. Thanassi's still keeping very nicely onto the back of Terziak, but Buck 20 catching the pair of them. Pathiman has got it all to do to try and catch up to those three. Big Sam's soft tyre gamble has definitely not worked. Buck 57's in P9. Magico sitting comfortable, pretty in P10 with no threat whatsoever. And Stark piling on the pressure on Tim now. Lap 28 of 36. Here in the Dutch Grand Prix. Still all to play for. As we now soon head on to lap 29, and Timalele could well go back for the lead. Milo trying to break the slipstream instantaneously. Stark has a front row seat to proceedings. Tim's up into the lead. Stark breaks as late as he dares, but gets a wheel on the grass, and that's going to hamper his momentum all the way through. Even with a bit of a switchback, he fakes to the inside to try and force the error out of Milo, but it has just not been enough for the moment, and he has to wait yet another lap of pain and frustration. Thanassi's moved up into P4, by the way. Him and Terziak are doing the DRS training. It's Timalele from Milo, but Milo's looking extremely racy. On board with a car with a decent engine sound in comparison to the rest of Mercedes. A little bit more raw, albeit still wrong. I guess the Honda one's not bad as well, but the downshift sound is a crime against humanity. And upshift for that matter. Shifting sounds in general, just forget it. It's a disaster. Thanassi, by the way, is catching up a lot to the front cars, albeit he did take a lot of gravel to do so. So actually, the medium's slightly coming into a realm of their own at this stage, but not enough, as he just has a moment of understeer out of that final corner. Milo again goes for the lead, holds it to the inside to give Stark no real opportunity to try and duck underneath and become a threat himself. Through goes Milo. Now it's Stark's opportunity to try and go round Timalele, but Timalele truly stands the test of time. He's being whittled away at by his opposition, but keeps gritting his teeth down. You can never fault the resilience of this man, as two cars have overtaken Thanasi. Buck 20 and Terziak, and then almost looking to the outside of the right-hander. What a madman! Still thinking about it, even a switchback out of the fast right-hander, but nothing doing there. Just got to keep it patient. There's no point in sending it at this stage, especially if you want to actually be in contention if the front three do make a mistake. It's the other thing to consider. Any misfortune for those ahead can mean beautiful implications for those behind. But they've got to weather the storm all the while and not get caught up in their own battle. It's a massive game of chess and cat and mouse. Timalele plays Kiat, gets through into P3. P1. The man in P3 was looking for an avenue through, but again, they remain in formation side by side, and Stark just has nowhere to go. These two loving life in P1 and 2. That might have scarpered Milo's momentum just a bit too much. Stark on the outside and space left by the McLaren man. Could this be the break that Stark needs? Still side by side all the way up the hill. On board with Stark round the outside. Goes Milo and keeps P2. Rapturous racing from all three of the front runners. But that means catching by half a second is Buck 20. My God, what pace he has. He's almost caught a second on this stuff alone. That's ridiculous from Buck 20. Well, he does love this track, but my God, where's that pace come from? That's unbelievable. Tim, however, still remains in the ascendancy. 3.8 seconds. What on earth is the pace from Buck 20 at this stage? Good grief. Well, the DRS straight will put pay to some of his work at least, but he's got phenomenal pace in that McLaren. Milo and Stark having their own little slobber knocker towards turn number 1. Stark diving down the inside of Milo. Again, the outside line will pay dividends where it matters most. And defending to the absolute last moment. Milo providing a rapturous resistance. Buck 20 not losing as much time as he might have first feared in that particular instance. Not using a substantial amount of battery either. Oh, Milo down the inside of the right-hander. Timalele might not have seen that one coming. Massive wheel banging between the two of them, and Milo is through into the lead, and Stark going down the inside of the right-hander. Timalele could well be demoted from first down to third place. Round the outside, Stark tries to go. Momentum in his favour. Neither of them wanting to yield. In the end, Stark won't yield, and down the inside he goes, but taking a trip through the sandbox. And that could have been very dastardly indeed, but you know what that means. All of their fighting, they've shipped yet another second to Buck 20 behind. And these three at the front have to have their wits about them. They've got to go now with care and caution, because it could all fall away from them. Stark wants the lead of this race, though. Diving to the inside once again, but Milo, he's done this song and dance many times before, albeit he's going to have to do a little bit more hard work to keep P1 in his clutches, and so he does. A slide from Stark on the exit, though. It means Timalele gets back past into P2. My word. And Buck 20 again, just catching up 4 temps casually. He's loving life. How old are his tyres? Not that much younger. He's just got fantastic pace in that car. I don't believe it. Buck 20, a man on a mission. Again through that right-hander, catching up by a couple of tenths of a second. The more that these cars fight up ahead, the more that Buck 20 is brought into play. Behind, it's all stabilised meanwhile. Let's look at proceedings. Pathyman it's caught up a little bit to the 3 cars ahead, but not that much. Big Sam made a crucial mistake and has had to make a second pit stop, albeit could go fast at that point. And Buck 57, in a world of his own, not too far behind, but Magico loving life in his own postcode. Timalele, loving life in the lead of the race. Through he goes, retakes the lead. It's simple as that. These three finally gaining some impetus. As Buck 57's had a mistake and his front wing's off on the front right again. On the right-hand side, rather. I literally say front right as if it isn't part of the front wing. That is really stupid. But Milo demoted to P2. These three finally taking a leaf out of my book and not fighting a huge amount, just working together. It means Buck 20's pace is nullified somewhat. Just gives them a bit of time to have a little bit of rest and recuperation, to regain their composure and confidence out in front. Albeit Buck 20 still with some great pace. Absolutely sumptuous showing from the McLaren. As through the right-hander, the leading pack go. Buck 57 into the pits, and that means Mr. Magico is into P9. It's not all bad sunshine. Stark right on the back of Milo once again. Using a devilish amount of slipstream. Milo, though, is going for the lead again. Oh, front row C. Starks broke way too late. And his front wing damage on the left-hand side. It's disaster for the Ferrari. The Scarlet Ferrari, the prancing horse, has got a huge amount of injury to deal with. No end plate on the left-hand side. And now the podium positions have opened up for those behind. The Flying Scotsman, Mr. Consistent in the McLaren. Thanasi, after the start of his race, where all looked lost, has managed to find himself in a luxurious position. And now a potential podium is on the cards. Who dares to go for it first? I imagine it will have to be Terziak. Drama in the closing stages of the Dutch Grand Prix. Terziak again biding his time. Slightly covers the inside off to make sure Buck 20 doesn't do anything heinous. I imagine Stark will stay out regardless. We are almost on the last lap of the Dutch Grand Prix. And it will be Timalele who takes the lead of the race. But the important thing is he gets it done before the start-finish line. And that could prove a great amount of, well, intel for Milo, providing he doesn't hoof it through the gravel too much. Gets a bit of dust and dirt on his tyres and loses time through the first corner. And a lot of time at that. But still all to play for. Terziak through into P3. Stark now down to P4. And Buck 20 and co have a chance to relieve him of even more points in this race. Timalele's got a decent gap to Milo, but the battle for P4 certainly isn't done for any of these drivers. So much more turning for the McLaren, and down the inside, Buck 20 tries to go, sees a minuscule gap. Thanasi, my God, what a save that is. Slaloming around, just manages to keep the car pointing in a straight line. But we return to the fight at the front. And this is it. Timalele, it's been a game of chess and cat and mouse all the way through, but he has been the ultimate predator today, biding his time to perfection, and Timalele takes top honours at the Dutch Grand Prix. Thanasi goes through at the last on Buck 20, my goodness me. Almost huge contact between Tyrrell and Buck 20 as I break the sound barrier. But Stark does eventually claim P4. It's Mr. Terziak taking the last podium position. Thanasi P5. Buck 26. Pathiman does donuts around across the finishing line because he doesn't have to worry about a thing. Big Sam's in the background. Pathiman with a dose of finesse and flair claims P7. Big Sam comes through to claim P8. And Magico, when it all seemed to unravel in the early stages, he can be pretty proud of himself because he kept it consistent. Others around him fell by the wayside. And the Mercedes man, the lone Mercedes man, will claim P9 on the road with a weave to boot and crashing into the wall just before the finishing line, managing to not DNF. It's a confetti cannon that gets a 10 out of 10 from me, and I'm not biased. Buck 57 across the line next, taking his time, and he's going to go through possibly the pit lane, but no. Some delightful donuts Savour them, everyone. Drink it in. I do apologise for the fact that the Netherlands turned into 2 parts, realistically, but donutting around could hit one of the leaders. He'll still gain points, so it's not like he's going to lose a huge amount of time as, well, Milo in the McLaren across the finishing line ran over a huge knob of carbon fibre. Still donuts going on for Buck 57. I think he's just generously letting me go through the finishing order, and so I will. Timalele takes top honours at the Dutch Grand Prix, followed by Milo. So close, yet so far for the McLaren man, but gave it absolutely everything. Terziak P3, Stark P4, Thanasi claims P5 at the end. Buck 20 in 6th, Big Sam in 7th, Magico in 8th, Pathiman at a DNF apparently, so came 9th, which just didn't happen, so he actually finished P7. 8th was Big Sam, Magico P9, and Buck 57 crosses the line in the absolute perfect timing to claim P10. Damn the stream. Oh, bless you, Pathiman. It's alright. It's what it is. Everything, absolutely everything crashed on me. OBS crashed and I thought that was it. That's the least of my problems. And then it crashed again and took F124 down as well. Hook, line and sinker. But no one had a stinker. That's for certain. I did absolutely enjoy the donuts. They were very tasty, mate. I did absolutely enjoy them. But to the podium celebrations we go. And I don't have to worry about going through the finishing order again. Because Buck 57 gave me the luxury of going through it. Whether he was listening or not, it was orchestrated to pure perfection. So was this man's road to victory. His moment of crowning glory at the Dutch Grand Prix. The Visa Cash App man takes the win at the Dutch Grand Prix. It was all down to the tactics. And Timalele tremendously and tactically fought his way through and kept first place. Stark, unlucky to him, just outbroke himself, and that's ultimately what undid what was otherwise a race calculated to perfection himself. Milo just kept his cool. Patience was certainly a virtue, and claimed P2, and Terziak inheriting P3. As patience was a virtue for him too. The front 3, one of them at least, fought just a little bit too hard, and he reaped the rewards. So fair play to the Flying Scotsman. Otherwise, what a race that was. My goodness me, another week of Blackout is done and dusted. And oh my god, I am feeling it, ladies and gentlemen. I am absolutely feeling it. My word, the stream is not starting. We're back on standby. I forgot to change that round. Holy moly! What a week. What a week of Blackout in Mexico in the sprint race. If your name was the letter T, you're having a great time because Mr. Terziak took the win for a long time. I thought Thanasi was going to have it. Signed, sealed, delivered. But Terziak came through with a first-class strategic play and courtesy of him not having a time penalty next to his name. That ultimately set him up for the ultimate concoction and conclusion of the crowning glory in Mexico. And so his charge towards the top of the championship continues. Much did Timalele's at the end of the Dutch Grand Prix. Very much a game of cat and mouse up and down the field. It was, well, strategic slobber knockers left, right and centre. And ultimately, when it came down to it, it was Timalele on top and did a great job as well. An absolutely great job. Milo did well to keep out of trouble. Had he not made the mistake into turn 1, different story. He might well have won it in the drag race to the line had he kept close. But that is all hindsight. That is all hindsight at play. So, we shall never know. As for Stark, unlucky to him, but in the end, it meant Terziak could inherit the last place on the podium, which in the context of his championship is delightful news. It is absolutely delightful news. My goodness me. Don't know what else there is to say. Mexico, there was just rampant racing the whole way through. Thanasi went from last to first. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. In the end, though, having the penalty next to your name, he did well to limit the damage. all things considered. I must confess, he did very well to limit the damage. But damage limitation is all it could have been. What could have been for the Williams driver. But we've seen how quick he can be, especially at the beginning of the season. And there is no reason why that can't continue. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am in HD. Yes. Look at this. This is pretty nice, isn't it? I've got an Elgato cam link, basically. So now you can see my face in crisp 1080p and 50 frames a second, albeit the lighting's a bit screwed. So let's turn that up, and you can see now. Apologies for the wall. I know it looks ripped up. I had a fight with a grizzly bear. And for those of you asking, yes, I got battered and bruised, but you should have seen the grizzly bear. He became part of a steak. Yeah, there's redecorating happening, so I apologise for that, although I don't apologise because that's just a part of life. And there was wallpaper on it before, and my family collectively decided it had to go. And so we're just using it's going to be simple. It's going to be a white wall. There you go. There's already one over there, actually. I'm not going to turn the camera to it because there is a lot of clutter around on my desk at the moment, and I don't want you all to see it. So you're not going to see it. Here I am. Here's my face. My God. I haven't done this in a while, have I? I normally do it on, as you can see, this thing. But that looks naff. I'm not up for that. What I am up for is quality, though. And I now have quality. And you can all see my face in all its glory. Which means, well, now if we end up doing free gambling, for example. I shouldn't call it that. I'll probably get banned on Twitch. But, what am I doing? I'm doing that. Oh, that sounds nice. But, ladies and gentlemen, you can see my face while doing it. Ignore that. I don't know how to crop things yet. But you can actually see me do this, which is quite cool. I haven't set it up on there. I forgot. But you can actually see my face on this while doing it. So there you go. Peach was kidnapped by a child. And that's pretty sad, really, isn't it? I'm not going to do that because, honestly, I simply can't be bothered. And I'll probably get banned from life. So I'm not going to. I do have a plan, actually, though, ladies and gentlemen. Which I don't know if I have my... J-Lane says this is the best, greatest upgrade to streaming ever. Well, you wanted the... Now you want the free gambling. Pathiman's reported me. He's got Luigi to put butter in my pasta. Bring... Maybe in a bit. But no, I actually do have a plan. There is a plan that I have going forwards, which I'll be streaming relatively soon. I think I've got my face cam sorted, but here is my thinking, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that don't know, which you don't, I like Crash Nitro Kart. And that being Crash Nitro Kart, I'm also relatively familiar-ish with the speedrun community. And in that speedrun community, there is a certain category, which I am about to bring up now. I can't remember what button it is that I'm supposed to press. Hello, it's me. That's not what I wanted. It's a great upgrade to streaming. I still don't know what I'm doing. That's my screen. I know that, but I want to, like... Chrome? No. What? What am I supposed to be doing? I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm really confused right now. Ah, there we go. Webcam box. Right. So as you can see, there's all my applications. But, real point, Go away, man. Real point is, there's this category here. Speedrun.com. We have, as you can see, this is the any percent run of Crash Nitro Kart. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's no way you're going to get a record on your first try in any percent on Crash Nitro Glycerine. No, I'm not going to. I'm nowhere near good enough. But we then go to Skipless. And as you can see, there's only 7 names on Skipless. Now, that is very interesting that there is only 7 names on Skipless, which means it is very, very easy, in fact, for me to be in the top 8. In fact, it's 100% likely I'll be in the top 8 if I just submit a speedrun. I don't know if there's like a certain standard it needs to be, but if there is, I don't care. I'm going to do one anyway, and I can confidently say that I'd be in the top 8. And then I'll be a streaming pro. So that's quite cool, isn't it? Goodness. I need to actually bind a hotkey now so you can see my face. I forgot to do that. There we go. I'm back. I think that'll do it, though. I mean, I'll do a quick rundown of the races while you can see my beautiful face, subjectively. I like to think I'm doing okay for myself. So, Mexico was a sprint race in Blackout terms, which means a reverse grid 50% race, which means more racing action, more carnage, more chaos, and certainly more fun, at least for me, and hopefully for the drivers as well. But in the end, it saw misfortune descend itself onto multiple drivers, namely Thanasi, Tyrrell, and a couple of others. Didn't really have the rub of the green go their way. Thanasi, though, very early on, got half spun with contact on Tyrrell's car, not by Tyrrell. That's an allegation, and that's incorrect, actually, so I won't say that. But he then proceeded to do the almighty charge before his first stop had even happened. Went from, on his hard tyres, from last all the way to first, albeit with a time penalty, which would play a part. I've combined the part and factor word. That's not fun. It will play a part later on in the race. Benefactors will be discussed later. He then proceeded to get onto the medium tyres. Others behind him also did. Terziak, Timalele. There was a Stark in the fight as well. It was looking pretty tasty as Terziak was hoisted away from Timalele and Stark, which gave Mr. Thanasi the breathing room he needed for a high position. Didn't happen, though, because the safety car came out with a fleeting few laps to go. Maximus and Milo having some very, very chaotic contact, which proved crucial in the context of Terziak's race and indeed Timalele and Stark's race, as they ended up being the podium dwellers. Thanasi did well to limit the damage. He came home P4, Pathaman came P5, and Tyrrell, despite all of the misfortune his Mexico Grand Prix had, came 6th. It's not bad, is it? And then we had the Dutch Grand Prix, and I can't tell you how my voice is, because it's basically gone. So, there you go. But there was a lot of chess games being played. It was strategic sidewinding that ultimately would decide the Dutch Grand Prix, in the form of Timalele winning it. But it was a lot of DRS training, a lot of cat and mouse. But in the end, the dogfight ended off with Timalele being the goodest of boys, retrieving all of the biscuits, although Miller will receive some complimentary biscuits, and maybe even nugs, because he put up a very good show. And had it not been for a mistake at turn 1 on the last lap, maybe he could have won. Who knows, though? It is all complete hearsay. I think I've covered pretty much everything. Thanasi had a disconnect. He managed to recover to P5. Well done him. Terziak got the final spot on the podium. So a great weekend for him. A win and a 3rd place. So there you go. Multitudes of mistakes as well. But in the end, mostly the drivers came out unscathed. And I'm always proud of my darling husband, Magico. So there you go. Well, the Blackout Racing League is done for this week. And it ends off with my face, which I bet you weren't expecting, but at least it's in glorious HD, which is just pretty good fun. At least I hope it is for you. I like to think it is. I do my best. But Blackout is done for today. Thank you all so much for watching another round of the Blackout Bonanza. Week 5 is done and dusted. And you know what? Actually, I have to go back to my little screen because we don't know where we're going next. So let's find out. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, will be Miami and Brazil, which seems like a bit of a culture shock, I imagine, to some of the Blackout people, some of you regulars who think, oh my God, Brazil's the last race. What are we doing? Well, they always align it here in Blackout to be on the same week as the racing week that they're actually going to. So Brazil on the Monday, it's Brazil on the subsequent Saturday. How about that? All happens in the same week. Very well orchestrated. And then it's a break week after Miami and Brazil. So normal form, 35% race, 50% race. A break week for the 4th of November. I hope we get to do something fun. I'll certainly be up for it. And I hope a lot of others are too. Then we're back on the 11th of November for a Baku 100% race. It's going to be carnage, let's put it that way. Although it is only a short quali as opposed to a full quali. So there you are. And then we have a 3-race week, and you can read the rest. But you get the idea. We end off the season in Japan, basically, just over a week before Christmas, which is rather unbelievable. But there we are. I'm going to get that up just so it is easy to switch to. But if you did enjoy, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. Once again, another week of the Blackout Barmy Bonanza. It has been a bonkers one, but that's why it's so beautiful. If you did enjoy, please give a follow to this Twitch channel and go and subscribe to my YouTube channel at KarlsCars. I do see you. If you haven't subscribed, I do see you. I am always watching, and I know your address, and I've got a shovel. Because guns aren't really allowed in this country, but shovels are. So there you go. Anyways, subscribe to my YouTube channel because it's got all of the commentary stuff in a little playlist called Commentary. Shock. You can watch all of the Blackout things I've ever done over there. Indulge in them. Feast your eyes upon beautiful racing and chaos because believe me, in this league, you probably won't find more anywhere else. In fact, I can almost guarantee you won't find more anywhere else because that's just how beautiful Blackout is. As always, Blackout, thank you so much for allowing me to commentate. You are the reason I do all of this day in, day out. All of this stuff, all the Creator Series stuff, all of my football stuff, it's all down to you. It's why I have the love for doing this commentary. The passion is very much there because you helped ignite it. So thank you. And I love you all to bits. Speaking of football, by the way, I'm commentating tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I am. On the radio station, Mix 92.6. I'm commentating St Albans City FC's game away from home against Slough. Or should I say Slough? But it could be, well, it could be a rather Slough proceeding if St Albans remain on current form, which I'm not looking forward to. But as long as they bring some life, then it should be an okay game. But the point is, I'm doing that game. I have another guy with me helping to do it because doing football commentary on your own is notoriously rather difficult, as it turns out. So, there you go. In fact, any commentary is probably quite difficult on your own, but... Anywho, the point is, I'm on Mix 92.6. It's at mix926.com, www.mix926.com. If you're watching this as a repeat, I've probably already done the commentary, but if you go there and support the radio station anyway, just listen in, see how they're doing. If you click the little sport tab at the top, you'll get all of the live sport proceedings. So I'll be there tomorrow, 7:45 in the evening. The game starts. We'll be on the air a little bit earlier than that, just so we can set the scene, build up the atmosphere, etc., etc. But that will all be there for you to enjoy. But there you go. Terziak and Timalele take top honours. It's a good week again if your name begins with the letter T. But who knows what mischief Miami and Brazil can bring to the table. Until then, I bid you adieu from my face. I thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Ends, starts. Did I say that wrong? I don't know. If I did, I'm sorry. It starts at 7:45. But there you go. Good night to you too, Mr. Pathyman. And I can't wait for next week to get underway. Very soon. By very soon, I mean a week. Thank you all once again. I love you all to bits. And until next time on the Blackout Racing League, it's goodbye from me.